Good evening, everyone. How are we doing? So first things first, let's see who's in. Let's see who's about, who's doing what. Dear Visions, the first in the chat, early gang. Appreciate you. Fee, can we start this early because Paul is being annoying? As Paul says here, I was actually nearly late myself, which you will all be shocked to know. It makes a change, but I was here. Ben Repti chat, what's going on? Thank you for joining. Who else is about? Let's have a butchers. Gary, what's going on, Gary? Thank you for joining, my friend. Appreciate you. Serenity, yeah, boy, who has then started everyone else on it as well. Paul, please don't leave from backstage. I promise I'll try not to do it so much. First things first, just another quick one. Shout out Responsible Reptile Keeping. If you are in the UK and you aren't signed up to Responsible Reptile Keeping, what are you doing? It's a very, very just cause. Check them out and have a look. By the way, this isn't paid for. They haven't asked me to do this. It's just something I very much believe in. So yes, please feel free to check them out if you haven't already. Another quick one, shout out to the patrons. Appreciate and love each and every single one of you. You're a bunch of legends, and just you wait until you see what's coming with this next build. And these things that I'm adding would not be possible without you. Anyone wants to get involved? Oh my God, look who started already. Gary, 199. What a legend. Thanks, Gary. Johnny Newman, thank you for joining. Appreciate you, mate. Thank you. But yeah, if you want to join the Patreon, the link will be in the description. However, it's not what tonight is all about. Tonight is about, can I keep my guy, my absolute guy? Please buy and feed Ragnar an octopus. Okay. I see you. Can I introduce this evening's guest for the Q&A? None other than the man himself, Paul's Monitors. What is going
matchy
and that wasn't intentional.
No, it actually wasn't. How are you all doing, ladies and gents?
Hope everyone's this. So we've got, so between Will, he said $5, please buy and feed Ragnar an octopus, and Gary has then sent $4.99 for the octopus.
Mango's had an octopus. It's quite interesting how they tackle it.
Yeah, to be honest, I've got no choice but to now. I've been sent basically a tenner to buy an octopus and feed it to Ragnar. So I got to give the people what they want.
Everyone watching, if you want to see anything in particular in my room, if you super chat it, I'll do my best.
There you go. Yeah,
and the proceeds go towards the scrub that is rid the reptiles.
Appreciate it. This guy still hasn't got ad revenue, so you know what I mean. Anyway, what's going on? You good?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I've had a bit of a conundrum today with my male toad head deciding to escape, and I had to catch him under a sieve and then put a bit of paper under him like a bloody spider. But yeah, I mean, I've got a few personal things going on, but outside of that, the reptiles are going well, job's going well. Outside of the personal issues, life's going well. I can't complain, mate. I'm still here, still doing it. So yeah, I'm all right. You?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just over a week into being a parent of two. I'm still on paternity leave, and I literally have not stopped. Now, in all fairness, a lot of that is self-inflicted, and I haven't done a massive amount with regards to said newborn. I've obviously been looking after my boy mainly to make sure that Em's got the time to look after the newborn. But then when he's having, I'm building, I'm filming, I'm basically doing what I want to do full time. But whilst I'm meant to be on paternity leave, I'm just building, filming, keeping myself busy. So it's good. It's given me a little bit of an insight into what I'm hoping to achieve full time in the future. So it's all right. I mean, it's tiring. Don't get me wrong, especially with two kids. But yeah, all good, mate. All good. Mustn't complain. Reptile Room 2.0 is on the way as well, as we all know, with potentially some interesting things coming as well. So, yeah, all good. Right. So, to be fair, all right, let me just say for everyone in the chat as well, this is technically a live Q&A. If you've got questions, feel free to fire them across. I didn't get them on the stories because this is more of a discussion as such on a topic. But if you want to ask any questions, then feel completely free. James Smith, evening. Hello, James. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you, my friend. But yeah, so this topic has been living rent-free in my head now for a little while, because I keep making comparisons mainly to the fish keeping hobby. And I think it's time that it was spoken about without anyone being there going, just outright going, no, you can't do it, because we see it all too much online. And that is cohabbing. I guess sometimes you can say the same species, but the biggest one that I'm thinking about is different species. So straight off the bat, what is your very first initial opinion on the subject?
Currently, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, about 15 enclosures, of which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of which, so a third of my enclosures are Cohab, and going forward, probably half of my enclosures will be Cohab. So I'm quite big into cohabitation, but obviously there is a lot of nuance, which is what we're going to discuss in this podcast. But as for cohabitation, because I remember when you and I first started speaking, you were like, "Oh, it's so weird," because, like, you know, in sort of the snake world or the gecko world, you know, cohabs are bad, but in the monitor world, it just seems to be the normal. People just seem to cohab monitors,
and no one bats an eyelid.
No, and obviously it's done. Any cohabitation, caveat at the very start, is done at your own risk, because obviously increasing any form of stimulus into an enclosure by adding another animal can cause detriment, but it also can cause real positive enrichment and fulfillment for different species. For example, my toad-headed agamas and my stenodactylus geckos, they are true communal species, and they will be depressed without that without that level of interactivity, whereas the appies or the gillini or stuff like that don't need to be cohab, but I have seen behaviors that warrant benefits of cohabitation. So for me, I'm pro cohabitation. I guess we'll find each other's lines in this episode, but just off the bat, I'm pro. What are you?
First things first, Bailey, hello, thank you for joining, my friend. Appreciate you. So essentially, when I first joined the hobby, it was very much a case of all you see is the research says and the people say, no, you don't do it. There's no need. The arguments are there. There's no point. It's dangerous. But there's more to it than that. And I genuinely think that it can be a positive. And even if it's not a positive, I think there's times where it's certainly not even dangerous. Just for example, one of the ones that I'm thinking of that obviously me and you have discussed, we've discussed it in group chats, things like that, is keeping a small gecko species with a royal python. In my head, you've got to, because a lot of people will go, well, no, why would you? What's the point? It's dangerous. It's this or that. In my head, at no point is that 4 foot, 5 foot royal python going to be bothered about wanting to eat a gecko that's this big. Do you know what I mean? And if it's from the same area, if it's the same, husbandry that's needed, the same heat, UVI, everything, you provide hiding spaces, you provide the right foods, I genuinely do not see the issue. Now, here's where a lot of people might, this is where the problem lies, is when people are like, oh yeah, but, obviously you can't keep, let's use Adam Wickens, for example, 6 leopard geckos in a 4x2x2. That I agree with to an extent, because the enclosure is not big enough. But Jamie, Norwich Reptile Shed, keeps 2 female leopard geckos in a 4x2x2. And it's a sick enclosure. And I haven't got really anything negative to say about that. Do you know what I mean? So where do we draw the line? How many geckos in that instance is too many?
The answer to the question is the line sits with the individual, because a lot of this is opinionated. There will become a line where the number could be 10 hypothetically, where you do always see detriment in a 4x2x2. But without someone trying to do that, you will never reach the true line. And a lot of this hobby is opinion-based keeping.
Yeah.
Regardless if that's someone giving an opinion on a species that they do or don't keep, or if that's giving their opinion on how you should keep said species that they do or don't keep. Yeah, I mean, I agree. 6 in a 4-2-2 is, for me personally, my personal line is, that the enclosure is too small.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's wrong. And then I think this is where nuance comes in, because if he's doing it and it is okay and he's seeing no detriment, then there's a footprint and a blueprint there to start to build a foundation of where we could be in 10 years. And I don't think attacking someone that dares to be great is the right mentality within reason. Obviously, if someone's doing something that is a clear detriment, for example, putting a mouse in with a rat snake, that's going to be, it's a clear detriment.
Yeah.
So when there are blurred lines, I do think we as a hobby should allow people to be experimental. The issue is when influencers are the ones that are experimental, they influence others that may not be adept enough to do said cohabitation. And then that's where, again, and I don't blame, this is on the individual. I don't blame influencers for this, but it is the way the world is. And I think anyone that doesn't see that is like blind. Like, even if you put a disclaimer at the start of your video, people are still going to do it. It doesn't make it your fault, but people are still going to do it. So I think that is, again, another line that we could probably touch on in a bit. But the line only exists in your mind. And that's it. You and I are going to disagree, but neither one of us will be right or wrong. Yeah. And the line exists only where you see it. And, some people are okay with tree monitors in 4x2x4s. Some people want tree monitors in 8x8x8s. Like, both work. Neither is wrong. Neither is right. And everyone is instantly at arms. And, no, too small. No, too big. And it's, why can't we just let people do what they want to do as long as these animals aren't at a true detriment? And that fits to the whole hobby, not even just the cohabitation side. But the cohabitation side has been done wrong too often. So we have a lot of evidence to show that in certain instances it doesn't work. But it doesn't mean it won't work in a different situation with a different keeper, with a different skill set, with a different mindset.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because you've had so many that have said it's wrong, and now it's become the outright no. Anytime someone tries, they are immediately told that they are wrong and that they've done something bad and that they are a detriment and things like that, which means A, people aren't going to want to try these things, and B, if they do, they're not going to want to talk about it anyway, even if they're successful. I'll be honest, since I've been putting these stories up, the amount of people that have messaged will be like, yeah, but you do know, like, this zoo keeps this and this together. This person keeps this and this together. But the thing is, it's not spoken about because people don't want to put it out there because they know. But I wasn't aware of that. But people won't come out about it because they know that those who shout the loudest will be the ones that get hurt. And the ones that shout the loudest are the ones that will claim animal abuse and that will claim that, you shouldn't be doing that because of X, Y, Z. Like, one of the things that I mentioned when myself and Alex did True Tales about Wiccans was, at what point do we look at it and think, is he just being a pioneer? Is someone going to look at this in the future and go, well, actually, maybe it is right? Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I don't know if my internet or your internet's gone bad, but I know you're back now. I can hear you fine, but you were frozen. But anyway, it's a hard one because the Reptile Hobby full stop was built on pioneers. Everything has to be pioneered. It's how the word became what it is. People have to keep with an incandescent lamp in a bloody ceramic flower pot, and that's how we used to keep reptiles heated. And that was innovative. That was genius. That was like, and then shout out Haberstat, but the original owner of Haberstat started creating thermostats and started creating heat mats, and for the UK hobby, that changed the whole entire scene. And now everyone's like, "Oh no, don't use heat mat. Oh no, halogens." But we forget the pioneers and what that monumental shift did for reptile keeping, and how we understood heating and how we understood welfare. So I think it is only. I've closed my laptop as well, so I can't see the chat, by the way, everyone, just because I think it's killing the internet. But the only way we can truly understand something is to live it in real time and see what happens. Like I've kept 2 Ackies together in a multitude of different size enclosures and no detriment at all. There are other people that put 2 Ackies together and they severely fight. Is that just possible that you have a non-compatible pair and I have a very compatible pair? There's so much in this, because animals are so sentient and individual, that just because your 2 animals fight doesn't mean my 2 animals will. And then the problem is, you put 2 Ackies together, they fight, so you're instantly running to the internet going, no, you can't go have them, they fight. And our parameters could be the same. The only stimulus could be the fact that our animals are different and individuals. And then I'm going, no, they're fine. And then you create lines. Oh no, I'm sided with Riddler. Like Aki's fight, like I've seen the videos, his fight.
Yeah.
I know I'm sided with Paul. Both are right.
Yeah.
Neither are wrong.
Yeah.
But
that's down to the experiences.
Yeah, but people forget to understand that there's difference.
Yeah.
Like the problem is people blanket and they just go, no, you can't.
Yeah.
And in certain instances, well, why can't I? And who are you to say that I can't try? And it is a hard one, because it's really hard to tell people what to do, especially if you've not done it and you've only heard someone else say it, and someone's going, no, leopard geckos can't be cohabbed. Well, yeah, they can. You know, Jamie's doing a great job of keeping 2 females. Regardless if you agree or disagree with Adam, I don't personally believe that he's going to let those animals come to harm. So I assume they're doing well. So there's 2 lines, 2 extreme lines, both of which seem to have a common denominator of the animals are okay. Whether the animals are thriving and living their best lives, that again is in the nuance of, you know, like I personally am a big fan of halogen heating. You can't halogen heat 6 leopard geckos at a 4x2x2. You can't. You just can't. It's got multiple heats, multiple highs, but you're doing infrared C. For me, that's a detriment to the animal, but that would be a detriment to 1 animal or a detriment to 20. That's not a case of the number of animals. That's just a case of the enclosure itself. So again, okay, well, how big of an enclosure do I need to make sure that every single animal can bask under UVA? How many basking spots do I need without overheating the enclosure? Now, again, you've added another complex layer onto a very simple topic. And there's so much that you can dive into it. And it's one of those things that you keep going and going and going and going and going, and you always come with the same answer. Well, where's my line? Because he could be completely fine, and I assume he is, because he's doing it with heating leopard geckos, which people have for years to no detriment, with heat mats. That's fine. That's great. More power to him. If that's what you want to do it. Great. But for me, my line doesn't allow me to do that. So my care will be completely different to his. And for me, okay, right, for 6, I'm probably going to need like a 6x3x3, so I can create 3 or 4 isolated basking spots, because realistically, they're not all going to be basking at the same time, and I can make that work for 6. So that's my number, you know. And then I would do it, and I go, oh, actually, you know what? I only see 1 basking. Maybe I can dwindle it down. Or Jesus, they're all out. I need to ramp it up. And then we get back to this word that I'm going to use a lot: nuance.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's not as simple as cohab bad or cohab good. There's so much involved. Just a quick one before we carry on. Turtle, thank you for joining. Appreciate you. We cohab our crested gecko pairs and the garg pair. Some of them have been together for months. We monitor for aggression and weight gains and losses. If we have an issue, we split them up. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not really a lot more you can do. If you don't see fighting, if you don't see aggression, if you don't see that the male's consistently pestering the female, meaning she can't eat, if you don't, then no one can say that you're doing wrong, surely, at that
Well,
point.
people can.
They
It's
can.
not true. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not, yeah.
Yeah, but people, and again, but it might be true to them because in their instance, they could have put two cresties or gargoyles together. They could have instantaneously fought, and then their experience, like, no, I think a lot of my lessons from life, and life is evidence based. You go on a plane once and you have severe, horrendous turbulence. You're going to be scared of flying. You go on 100 flights, 99 of them are great. The 100th flight, you had turbulence. Your evidence based is, well, this is once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
Both people are true. No,
Yeah.
but you can't tell that person that's had one flight that's had really bad experience that no, they're fine.
Yeah.
And you can't convince that person that's had loads and only one bad that they're all bad. You know, the two don't, and that's how we end up with bloody politics. The two don't agree. Two sides, and then they fight, and then you pick one. You can't exist in the middle. People like me, people like you, we exist more or less in the middle.
Yeah.
And then this is where it goes wrong because you do exist in the middle. And I hate hypocrisy. I try my best to see both sides of every story, regardless of my opinions or my beliefs. I try to see both sides because then I can understand where someone else is coming from in an argument.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you take someone at face value, you can't go have gargoyles because gargoyles can be quite nippy. Like, they can in comparison to cresties. If someone says to me, you can't go have gargoyles, okay, well, you've probably had a bad experience or you know someone that has. So let's elaborate on it and let's find where your line is. And then I can use your experience to help form where my line might be if I've never done it before.
Yeah.
And that's how the conversation should be driven, not no. Or,
yeah.
It's both sides should go, look, these are the pros, these are the cons, this is my experience, this is what I've been told, this is how I've been shown, this is how I've been taught. Take with this as you will. The rest is on your head.
Yeah. See, this is how I agree with you that I'm very much in the middle because I have the arguments by myself in my own head. Like, I'll look at it and I'll go, you know, the one side is saying, yeah, but this is what happens in the wild. And then you've got the other side that say no, and they say, yeah, but they're not in the wild. And then you've just got these, as the middleman or like someone in the middle looking at both sides, you're like, but which one's shouting the loudest and which one do I want to lean towards? Either way, it's almost like you can't do right. But at that point, that's when you've got to start doing things for yourself and understanding what you're doing. And again, this isn't aimed at people that are thinking, oh, I like my bearded dragons, but I haven't got room for two enclosures. I'm going to put them in the same one. Again, we're not going to sit here and go, absolutely not, no, zero. The likelihood is no. They are very much a solitary animal. Do you know what I mean? This isn't me saying Cohab beardies, but there's so much involved. And I think it's at the point where people need to stop just dismissing everything. The art of discussion has gone. And it can be dangerous for the hobby. You know, it's like, you know, what was it? That guy that said everything that's worth being invented has been invented or discovered. And this was before the TV, before trains, before aeroplanes and things like that. Like, if they'd have stopped there, where would we be now? And we have to remember that it's the same in our hobby as well. At what point do we say, well, hang on a second, maybe I can keep some small, or like one of the examples that I have been told is dart frogs being kept with green tree pythons.
Yeah.
And apparently that's a very, very common thing that's done absolutely fine. And there's no problems. Because the dart frog isn't worth the green tree python's time. They've got the same requirements. It's almost like what's the word for it? It's beneficial for both parties. Symbiotic, that's it. That's the one. But again, it's almost like if you say that to someone that's so against cohabbing, they'll go, no, that's wrong. No, that poor frog that's probably going to get eaten. It's okay until it's not okay. But what if it is always okay?
But then what if it's not?
Well, yeah, this is the thing.
Exactly, yeah.
But then here's the thing. But this is where my mind has been going with regards to the fish keeping hobby. Because obviously it's not stupid to the point where people say, I'm going to put angel fish in with Oscars, because immediately those angel fish are just going to get yammed up, jobs are good and bye-bye. But we put small communal shoaling fish in with some bigger fish, like angel fish, and we know for a fact that there's a chance that 1 or 2 of those might get picked off by the angelfish. But no one cares. Not that no one cares, but it's just but that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? That's just so. If you were to put 5 dart frogs in with a green tree python and it ends up eating one of them, there's uproar. But what's the difference? Do you see what I'm saying?
There is no difference.
Like we're putting more value on one life than another.
Yeah, but we do that regardless in the pecking order of what we eat as food. Dogs and pigs are both incredibly sentient and intelligent. The difference is one lives in your lounge and the other one's in battery farms. That's it.
Yeah.
If anything, pigs are slightly more intelligent than dogs.
Yeah.
Definitely more empathetic.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like, come on, what are we doing here? It's that line thing.
Yeah.
Everyone has a line. You know, fish are food, frogs aren't. Well, they are if you go to France.
Yeah, facts.
Like, what are we doing? It is the same. All life is sentient, regardless. It doesn't matter if it's an isopod, or it doesn't matter if it's an elephant. All life is sentient. All life is part of one ecosystem.
Yeah.
It all has to exist for the other to exist, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, no, but I guess the moral dilemma is if you're putting animals together that could, because I think everyone can agree that we're not trying to put animals together that will eat each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. I'm not saying put a boss monitor in with a leopard gecko.
Yeah, and but animals that could. But then a could is also a would in certain people's experiences. So what is different to cohabbing your green trees with your dart frogs to your boss monitor to your leopard gecko? The difference is the could would just happen a lot sooner.
Yeah. And the chances are a lot higher.
Yeah. So obviously then we take our moral line and we go, probably not for me. And then we scale down. And again, it's always that moral line. Everyone will see it differently. I know Reptilandia are housing a blue-tongued skink with a blue tree monitor. And it's public. It's not like I'm going, oh, but
Yeah.
I don't know where I sit with that, because if either of them did decide to get each other, they're not going to die. I mean, it's going to hurt an animal badly. And it's like, not sure where I sit with that. But then I would be okay with housing little skinks in with a tree monitor, which I know wouldn't get hurt, they'd get eaten. And I think if you're going to get eaten, it's quick overdone.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that's my line. If I'm going to cohab different species, the line has to be predator and prey, dynamic, in a worst case, rather than fighting for top dominancy.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that, because that is increased stress. But if you're putting an animal in with something like a tree monitor that's going to become hunted, then I can see the same argument. Well, you're increasing the stress to the smaller animal because obviously it's going to be hunted. It's a predator and prey, but one and then has stress, not two.
Yeah.
So I see both sides. Of course I do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, same here. Yeah. And that's why I find it so interesting, because it's like, that's why I wanted to do something like this, because I've been battling it so much in my own head that I wanted to get it out. You know what I mean? And just see where other people sit with it, see what we do.
Drag me through the hot coals. Yeah, it's fine, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just a quick one. Let's have a quick look. Brad's Bioactive Builds. What up, Andrew? What up, Paul? Thank you for joining, Brad. Appreciate you, my friend. Let's just make sure.
Yeah, I can't see the chat at all, so this is all on you.
No, that's all right. Well, we've got a question here before I carry on from Mr. Visions. I see people cohabiting animals that come from the same region. What are your thoughts on this? Well, this is something that I'm saying. Like, I personally, as long as, like you say, it's not a case of, they're going to fight for dominance, and it's, for example, the royal python with one of those little Cameroonian day geckos, I do not see a problem.
No, I don't think you should cohabbing animals from different environments. So.
Yeah. It's definitely if you're going to do it, it's got to be obviously species that
obviously they don't have to come from the same habit. Okay, how do I word this? They don't have to come from the same exact ecological niche, but they have to inhabit the same ecological biome.
Their
care requirements have to be the same
Yeah.
You have to be meeting all parameters of care
For both animals.
for both or three. Yeah, I used to keep American green tree frogs, rough green snakes, and anoles together in a massive 1836. I had 5 frogs, a pair of anoles, and a pair of green snakes, and they all come from Florida. They all live in Florida, and it was sick.
Yeah.
I tried to do it later in life, and I had the green frogs with the anoles, and I couldn't find rough green snakes. If anyone in the UK have got any, message me because I want them again. But anyway, I couldn't find rough green snakes, and they're all insectivorous. They all eat insects, and they're all more or less big enough that they're not going to try and eat each other. The frogs sometimes would try to pop at the anoles, but for the most part, the frogs were only out at night, so it was very, very rare. And even if they did, it was very much like bleh and spat it out. There's no detriment to the anoles. But anyway, I tried to do it again later in life, and I put the rough green in, and the anoles freaked out, which they would. Snakes are predators.
Yeah.
They freaked out, and they were pacing, and that green snake's never going to eat an anole ever. But the anoles don't know that.
Yeah.
And obviously, in the wild, they're not going to go, that's a rough green. They're all right.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know if it's a racer. They don't know, you know, if it's a bloody cottonmouth or whatever out there eating rat snakes or whatever's out there eating anoles. So it worked once, amazingly, for years. And the anoles bred, the green snakes bred, like the frogs didn't. But it was great. And then the next time around, I just couldn't get it to work.
Yeah.
Nuance.
Again, see, that's the thing. If you'd have had the negative experience first, would you have tried it the second time?
No.
See, that's it, and I think that's what a lot of it comes down to. But then the problem is, people then project that onto someone else trying it. They'll have a bad experience, or what's even worse is they'll hear about someone else having a bad experience and say, "No, don't do it," because they will. Yeah, they will kill each other. They will fight. They will
stress each other out. They will stop eating. They will die. Yeah. I saw a pet shop do it, and that's what gave me the idea. It wasn't and I was like 19 when I was doing this, and I went into a local pet shop, and I was like, oh my god, rough green, they're so sick. And then the more you looked into the enclosure, there was anoles, and then there was green frogs, and I was like, shut up. And he's like, yeah. I was like, they for sale. He's like, yeah, and I just bought the whole lot. I just bought the whole. That's what I mean. And it was already established and done. It wasn't my intricacies. I took them all home and boxed them all up individually. Took them home, reintroduced them. Harmony. It was great. And then I tried to redo it I found some, but then again, a couple with amphibians, it's tricky because they are so delicate that cross-contamination pathogens can really mess up amphibians. So when it comes to cohabiting amphibs, you do have to be more careful scientifically, not even necessarily emotionally with them. But again, it's just these lines.
Yeah. Instead of researching cohabitation, people really need to look at how they are keeping what they have. It's the baby's backgrounds.
Baby coming in, dropping the mic. Well, and on that note, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
It's like me saying, hang on, it's like me saying I've got a spare 4x2x2. I'll stick a caiman lizard in it because I have space. Yeah, well, yeah, this.
I think there's a Noah's Ark joke in there, isn't there?
Yeah. Mr. Roslagen Reptiles. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Jonas.
How we doing, mate? All right?
Thank you for joining.
I know he's excited for this one. He messaged me and he was like, "That buffoon Riddler discussing such an advanced topic." That's why he's got me on, Jonas. Don't worry.
So here you go. If anyone saw my story the other day, this is what I was talking about. I just didn't want to out him just in case he didn't want me to. I've been keeping a small skink with my blue tree monitor for over a week, close to 2, both absolutely killing it.
Until they kill each other.
Basket together, and the tree monitor has been eating his food perfectly. Going to drop a video soon. So I've seen, obviously, I've been getting sneak peeks, you know what I mean, behind the scenes, seeing what's going on. And it's not, do you know, when people say, oh, yeah, my leopard geckos bask together, and then the immediate argument is they're not basking together, they're competing for the heat and blah, 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 things like that. In all fairness, this tree monitor and the skink are basking near each other. They're not fighting for it, obviously, because the skink knows he's going to get messed up. But they've eaten crickets at the same time near each other. It is sick. And in Will's experience so far, it works. Now, obviously, again, the biggest argument is it works until it doesn't. But what if it does?
But then it might not work when I do it.
Yeah, of course. And this is the thing. This is the biggest thing.
Because
but then, like you said at the beginning, who's wrong? Neither of you.
Because I can't speak for Avalanche, but I know Kermit. The second he sees anything twitch or move, he knows size on it.
Yeah.
And that's in Batanza. They have these blue line skinks everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, everywhere. Are the lizards predating on them? Probably now and then. Have the lizards got an evolutionary memory to know that the skinks are a lot harder to catch than bugs? So what's the point?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Does that mean they're not going to try? No.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of these conclusions are going to come to it's fine until it's not.
Yeah.
And you have to decide if that's okay.
Yeah.
That's your moral line. That's your decision. Yeah. And I think I would be okay with trying it, to be honest. But I think, again, it took one out. You go, I might just not bother again. Yeah, that's the bad experience. That's done. You know.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't then say to people, "Oh, you can't do it."
Yeah.
I'd be like, for me, with my animals, it didn't work. Like, for example, Woo, the tree monitor that Michael's now got, I reckon you could keep bloody crickets with him. He's so lazy, you know. And the cricket would probably just be like, "Oh, you're right, Woo." He'd be like, "Yeah, mate, you." if he's not being tongue fed, like he's not interested. He's a lazy lizard. Kermit is on smoke, so it's you got to take the animals into account.
Yeah. Will has said, I'll send you a video right now if you want to show. I'm going to get him to email it to me, and then hopefully I can share it on my screen. But whilst we wait for that, Jonas has said the zoo in Stockholm actually are keeping their healers together with rattlesnakes for at least 10 years without problems. And that's a big one.
They're both found in the same spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the species of rattlesnake, but I assume they're both the ones that chill in, I think it's Arizona you find the healers. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong.
There you go, Will. I've just sent you my email address, my friend. Oh, well, I'm trying, but I'm on 3G for some reason. There we go. But yeah, oh, hang on. Dan Nardini, catch up later, boys. Enjoy your tapas.
Dan, the tree monitor man.
The tree monitor man. Avalanche is also a pretty lax monitor. See, this is the thing, and it's all about understanding your animal as well. That's the thing. Like,
I couldn't have a skink with Mango.
I was literally, you know what? The funny thing I was literally about to say to you, I wouldn't put any skinks in with Ragnar. Now, we know Ragnar. She's a bit
disabled.
Yeah. So the chances are that they probably get away from her anyway.
Honestly, mate, I'm not just saying it's not worth it. Live on the internet. You could put something in with Ragnar and it would be fine. It really would be fine. Like, it would be if anything, the skink would eat her. I think you have to worry about her, not the other way around.
She's not. Yeah.
She's not Mango.
She's not Mango at all. I saw that lizard live in the flesh, and that was different gravy.
She dives 6 foot. She dives 6 foot and 4 foot forward for a bloody locust, let alone a skink.
Outrageous. Yeah. But still, I know for a fact that she'd try, and that would put the animal under stress, and it's not worth it. But like I say, the one I keep coming back to is these little geckos in with a royal python. That royal python isn't going to go for a little gecko that's this big. It's not worth it.
Do you know what I am going to do? I'm going to get some the Malaysian horn toads.
No,
frogs. Malaysian leaf frogs, not toads, frogs. And I'm going to stick them in the forest dragon enclosure on the bottom.
Really?
Yeah. Because they're not going to eat each other. It's irrelevant. And they'll be found in the same spot.
Oh, that's sick.
And the forest dragons just, move up and down sticks.
Mate, those forest dragons.
And the frogs are only coming out at night.
Yeah.
And the temperatures on the bottom is going to be ideal. The humidity is ideal. They're literally found in the same spots. So, not yet. I've got stuff going on. Once the stuff's gone on and sorted, I'm going to put some in with them,
Yes. Sick. Oh, sorry, Will, but your email went directly to my junk folder. Sorry, mate. 2 seconds. My email clearly doesn't trust you. Right, let's download this video, and then I'll try and share it.
You could have just opened a new tab, open Instagram, and then shared the tab. You've sent it to an Instagram.
Yeah, potentially. That would be a bit too intelligent. Yeah, a bit too advanced. So
I apologise for him, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. Right.
F's in chat.
Right. Okay. Where are we? Where are you? Right. Are we ready? Because I'm certainly not.
I see.
Share screen. Oh God, where is it? There it is. Right. Let's go. Five-line skink.
Imagine if this was a different video and he just mugged you up live on the internet. Come on, Will. You had your chance. They're the ones I was talking about, Riddler.
That is sick.
That's the exact same species that I was telling you about in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the exact ones.
And that is cool, man. Like, obviously, hang on, there you go. I'd never try this with Blue, even though the skink is tiny. But if anything moves, Blue is going to eat it. And Blue, for those of you who don't know, is Will's Argus monitor.
Not to be confused with his blue tree.
Not yeah. I've thought the same thing before. He's got Avalanche, the blue tree, and Blue, the Argus. I'm just like,
to be fair, he had Blue way before Avalanche.
Yeah.
So I'll let him off.
Johnny Newman, like I said to you earlier about the Prasinus and the skink. Yeah. So, Mr. Johnny Newman here did message me and said, "Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone?" There we go. Marwell Zoo, so the zoo in Southampton, isn't it? I believe. Keep a Prasinus and skinks together, and also a turtle in there with them. And that's a zoo.
I haven't been there in years. That's a lie. I haven't been there in about a year, maybe a bit more.
What really annoys me is I lived in Portsmouth for 5 years and I never made it to Marwell Zoo.
Yeah, but you're fake though, man. Let's just move on.
It's not even fake. It's just laziness. Like I've been saying, because I've lived in Exmouth now for nearly 4 years. And every single summer I've said, right, Jacob, we need to go and, try and look for some native herbs in upper. Yeah, we will. We'll go and have a. We never do. Like, in all seriousness, 3 children have been born between us in the last 3 years, which doesn't help. But doesn't mean we can't go out herping quickly. Do you know what I mean? But yeah,
I'm up to four species so far this year.
I've not seen a single one.
Yeah.
I've seen a singular newt, if that counts.
Oh, yeah, it's an amphibian.
Yeah. I was on my way out of work, and it was just hunting for ants, which was pretty cool because there's a little lake nearby. But yeah, I do need to go and do that. But yeah, a lot of people have messaged and have been saying, this zoo has done this zoo does that. I know this person that keeps there, but the problem is
at the zoo there, the Drayton Manor Zoo, the one of the keepers there, because most of their enclosures are mixed species enclosures. And they did a talk about it. It was so interesting. And obviously it does go wrong. There was a picture, I can't remember what it was. It was either a lizard eating a lizard or a snake eating a lizard. And they were like, we just split them instantly. Like, we got it wrong.
Yeah.
And they were fine for like 10 months. And then he also said that they had a panther chameleon in with, I think, turtles. So turtles below, great. Chameleon up high. Perfect. Would never bother each other. They had one panther, did amazing. And then they took him out for breeding and they put his brother in. And his brother freaked out, would always panic. But, it's individuality.
Yeah.
And the thing is with it, I know a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I'm going to buy this species and keep it with that species. It's going to be great. Yeah. Well, it's not, because you don't know. And
yeah.
Where are you going to go? Are you going to now keep these 2 species separate? Or are you only buying them to keep them together? And if they don't work together, are you going to sell one and try another one? Like, these are all these lines that you have to figure out.
Yeah. And if you do it, are you going to talk about it and put it out to the wider public as well? You don't have to, but no, it's a funny one. I saw a post with Redfoot's cohabited with Salvadori. I didn't know how to take it.
I wouldn't cohab anything with Salvadori.
No, I wouldn't either.
Outside of maybe like tiny geckos.
Yeah. Again, something that's not worth its time.
Yeah.
Fee has said frogs.
What are you on about? Oh, you're there. What are you on about, frogs?
Because you were talking about getting the frogs.
Oh, I was talking about getting the frogs. Don't tell Fee.
That's why I did it. The Pacific blue tails are literally the exact same as the 5 lines. There you go.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. Dendro Dave, sorry I'm late, guys. No worries, my friend. Not a problem at all. I know we've been talking about this topic as well, to be fair.
There's another one that messaged me.
Joining.
The buffoon Riddler.
Nuki Zoo have a Cohab walkthrough exhibit. I've not been to Nuki Zoo either, to be fair. A lot of people mix iguanas and tortoises seems to work. So that's common. The infamous shop that I talk about, but I also don't talk about, they had a pair of sailfin dragons. Mm-hmm. They were sick.
Yeah, I nearly bought one the other day.
Mate, they were sick. And they were quite not friendly, but they were fairly you could stroke them, you could hand feed them. They were pretty cool. And at the bottom of this massive enclosure were tortoises. Mm-hmm. And then when it was feeding time, a massive bowl of lettuce or whatever, like your greens, or whatever it was whacked in the bottom, and everyone gathered around the bowl. Obviously, they just dive from up high. The tortoises would come, and they just sit there eating. The tortoises are usually trying to crawl through the food. I don't know why tortoises do it, but they make me laugh. They just want to sit in the food. I don't have one personally, but I'd love to. And then once all the salad was gone, the dragons would go back up, and the tortoises would just carry on trying to cause chaos. Again, why is that okay and no one bats an eyelid? But then at the same time, are there people that would go, oh, I wouldn't risk it. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but hadrosaurs, sailfins aren't really, they are omnivores, they are, but they're not looking to predate on tortoises. It's exactly the same as iguanids. They're not looking to predate on tortoises. So that Cohab is green light go with enough space and resources. The animals aren't predator and prey.
But this is what I mean. There's still some people in the hobby though that would outright say no, don't do it. It's not worth it. And this is what I think we need to be careful of. And what I think we need to start coming away from is the immediate sort of no, like immediate out of nowhere, nothing to back it up. Just no, it's not worth it. Don't even bother.
But then I think it's important to know who you're listening to, though, because like if you're listening to someone and they're trying to show you pros and cons rather than regardless of the side, and the problem is everyone is ego driven. So if you said to me, right, I want to keep my sailfins with my turtle, tortoises, whatever, and I'm like, yeah, man, that's a great idea. Like, yeah, I've seen it done at a shop. It's sick. You'd be like, perfect validation, all I needed.
Yeah.
And then if I say the other, I'm not feeding your validation. So you're like, no, I've seen it done at a shop.
Yeah.
It's both people. You have to be, if you're asking anyone questions, right? You have to be willing to hear the answers, even if you don't want to. You don't have to listen.
Yeah.
Ask someone a question and then be like, you're wrong.
Yeah. Facts.
Right.
Yeah.
Go, okay, cool. Why do you think that?
Yeah.
That is how you should lead with it. Not, all right, shut up, Paul. What do you know? I'm keeping sailfins with tortoises. It's fine. You know, it's again, everyone has these opinions, and I've had people say to me, "Oh, you need to split your ackies because different reason. The male keeps breeding the female. The female keeps laying eggs, putting too much stress on her body. She's laying too many eggs. Blah blah blah. Okay, cool. You've given me just reasons. I'll give it a go. Pulled the male and female. Every 6 weeks, female lays slug eggs. 6 weeks later, lays slug eggs. 6 weeks later, lays slug eggs. 6 weeks later, lays slug eggs. Right? What do you suggest now then? No male. Still, oh yeah, well you're feeding her too much. You're heating her too much. Cool her down. Stop feeding her. 2 months later, lays eggs. Slugs. No male. What do you suggest now then? So it's not just that I have a really, really, really prolific female, and as long as I make sure she's incredibly well calcified and, you know, full of vitamins and nutrition, I'll be all right. No, you shouldn't do it. Like it's the male's reason. That, in my case, it's not.
Yeah.
But I took the advice on board because I didn't want her to keep laying the eggs. It was over my line, so I was seeking the advice.
Yeah.
And I took the advice that I was given. It didn't work.
Yeah.
But I was open to it because I was looking for it, and I was like, okay, it makes sense. I'll do it.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show, just because it worked for the person I asked, doesn't mean it works for me. And Sven's about to lay a bloody 4th clutch this year.
Yeah. It's case by case. That's something that I'm very much understanding and starting to. It's very much case by case, because, like I say, you can have someone that tries it and says it doesn't work, and then you can have someone that tries it and it does work. But again, they'll just get berated and told, no, it won't work forever. But again, like you say, it's down to experience. Antoni can literally live with anything. That's phantasmals for the non-froggers. Thank you, Dave. Okay. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I know what they are. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I know what they are. Yeah.
I have darts, emerald tree skinks, all thriving. Main thing is space to get away, etc. Also keeping both species fed.
And again, those two species aren't going to predate on each other.
Yeah.
So it's great because there's no risk of health.
Yeah, and that's it. That's what a lot of it comes down to as well. Like, if you are going to have, let's just go into something that could be predatory, like Will with the tree monitor and skink. Are there enough hiding spaces? Are there enough crevices? Are there enough places for both of them to live without even having to come across each other if they don't want to? And that's what a lot of it comes down to as well. Talking about zoos cohabiting is on another level to each and every one of us in here. Unless you've converted each bedroom, just because a zoo can do it doesn't mean we can do it. Yeah, for sure. But I think that's on the bigger scale.
Some tree monitor enclosures are smaller than mine in zoos. So I will see the other side of that coin. Some keepers, some zoos are bad. Some keepers are very good.
Yeah.
So again, I will play like I always do, both sides. For the most part, I do agree. Zoos are a different level. The staff are highly trained.
Yeah.
They're there all the time. They're not at work like me. So they see the animals. But the enclosures can be small.
Yeah.
And also the whole enclosure debate and size debate, depending what we're doing. Because in the sense of an emerald tree skink and the dart frogs like yourself, Bailey, keeping them in a 6x6x6 or a 36 by 18 by 36, you can still meet both of those species' environmental needs and give them enough space. So there is this nuance again with it. And I don't want to be on here and be like, yeah, and feed a fire. I want to play both sides of every single coin that we bring up in this podcast, because otherwise there's no point in doing it. I don't want to sit here and be giving out this dogmatic opinion and pretend like we know the answers when someone else could have had the exact same experience and it been completely fine. So that's the only reason I'm playing devil's advocate on that. But I personally do agree for the most part.
Yeah. Is an enclosure within an enclosure a good idea to see how the species would react with each other without actually interacting?
It's going to have to be a big enclosure, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get the idea.
The environmental will be different, because each enclosure is going to have its own environmental parameters. So, and then also having an enclosure in an enclosure, you've got blocked out walls, so there's visual barriers, whereas that won't exist unless you put them in all glass, and then they're going to feel trapped because they physically can't escape. So for me, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Prime example again, I have 2.10 African pygmy dormice in a 60 by 45 by 90, and they love living together as they're a communal mammal. They do fight over food if you don't have enough in there.
The point I'll play on this again when I'm playing devil's advocate: how do we know that they love it? Like, how do I know my Ackies are loving being together? How do I know that they wouldn't be happy separate? That's another line. Someone's going to disagree with that. Other people are going to agree with it.
Yeah.
No matter what anyone brings up in this podcast, there will always be another side. And I just want to preface that both are fine.
There's going to be that. And I think, again, like similar to what you've said, that's why it's like there's always the two sides. And it's not that we know the answers. We just sometimes, there's a lot of the times that you know what the argument is going to be. But at what point do you stop? Natalia, thank you for joining, by the way. I think sometimes people ask a question expecting the answer to be there's nothing to be done. So if the answer is do all this more work, they reject it and say, no, you're wrong. Yeah. Well, that's what we were saying earlier on about asking a question and hoping to be told what you want to hear as opposed to the answer. If you're asking someone for advice, you need to take that advice on board. Whether you agree with it or not, you need to take that. If you want a second opinion, fine, whatever. But yeah, I agree. It's you can't just go looking for the answer you want, because that could end up having a detriment to the animals for sure.
Yeah, that is another whole wormhole in itself, because people are going to do what people are going to want to do.
Yeah.
And that is just the bottom line. Like, at the end of the day, if you want to do something, you're going to do it regardless. And we're all ego driven. So if someone says to you, no, don't do that, it's a bad idea, you probably were more likely to do it, because that's just how the human species works. And that's no shade on anyone. That just is how we're pre-wired.
Yeah. Oh, mate. Yeah.
Tell me not to do it. I'll show you.
Yeah. That makes me want to do it more.
That was a bad idea.
I mean, let me give you one example where it can work. But one of the very few times that Michael, Mr. Longfield, Reptiles and Aquatics, has been quite polite in his advice towards me and not calling me, we won't go there.
Are we speaking about the same Michael?
Yeah. Yeah, he was actually nice to me once.
Jesus.
But when he found out that I wanted to turn my 180-litre fish tank into an African cichlid tank with Malawis, he just went, it's not really big enough for that. And he said, you know, what you want is a minimum of this and that, and then you've got to have this filter and blah, blah, blah. Now, part of me wanted to go, but it's what I want to do. So I appreciate the advice, but I'm sure it'd be all right. But then at the same time, I know that he knows more than me about it. Like, I know about my fish. I like fish. I've been keeping fish for a lot longer than I've been keeping reptiles. But at the same time, it's like someone who's fairly new in the hobby coming to you and asking for advice and then ignoring the advice you've given.
It's more prerogative to them, but what people have to understand is and I'm sure this is going across the board, but if someone comes to me for advice, I have no horse in the race. If you are asking me for advice, I'm giving you my opinion based on what the information you have given me.
Yeah.
You can take or leave that. That is more power to you.
Yeah.
But you've come to me, so at least have the decency to humour my time. You don't have to listen to me. Of course you don't.
Yeah.
But you've come to me. It's different if I come to you and say, hey, Riddler, mate, I don't think you should do this. Then it's a bit more, it can be a bit more, who are you? Like, you don't know me. Why are you telling me this? Blah, 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 blah. So I can understand the latter. But if you message me and say, hey, Paul, I'm thinking about getting this monitor species. I'm going to keep it in X size enclosure, or I'm going to keep it with X species. What do you think? If I go, in my opinion, that's a bad idea because ABCD, you can then take that advice, draw your line. Michael's told you this about the fish. You've gone, I want to be here, but Michael's here. I probably should listen because his line probably is more true than mine. And
I did. To be fair to myself, I did. I haven't got Malawis because I listen to someone who understands it more than I do. But
then I think that was an instance in the case. I know why you're saying it because the preface of listening to people that are in the know, but that was a case of the animals not having enough rather than. So that's like someone messaging me and going, "Can I stick an Aki in a 3x2x2?" Not really.
Yeah.
And it's a similar dynamic. But again, you didn't have to listen. You could go, nah, mate, it'll be fine. I'll show you. It'll be fine. Yeah.
Zoos call these howdy enclosures. It's enclosures where the animals on each side can smell and see the other without touching, and they can monitor them for the period of time. Also allows separation later. I guess it's sort of similar to when you sometimes you try and introduce a male and a female of the same species.
Mesh,
you have the mesh in the middle so that they can't actually fight, but you can see how they get on and potentially.
That's not a bad idea at all. I'm wholeheartedly on board with that.
Yeah, I think Natalia's saying about obviously James's enclosure and an enclosure idea. I think that's sort of the sort of better one.
That would work amazingly. If I was ever to breed indicas properly, that's how I would do it. Is I would have two enclosures next to each other with a mesh door, so you can gauge it.
Yeah. Viv has said, I know they love it because they all sleep in one spot. They have multiple places to go and sleep, multiple hides, but I always find them together.
Pygmy.
Go on.
Every single one of those spots, exactly the same parameters as the spots that they sleep in. And I'm talking exactly the same. Because if they have a preference and it's only in one spot, And don't come back and go, yes, they are, because they're not. we all know they're not. That's how gradients work. And if they're all the same, then your enclosure's got to be the exact same temperature. Then you've got to have exactly the same spread heat. It's not.
So there you go. Said, well, I think they love it. But again, you have a point, Paul. There you go. Yeah. But it's true. Like, I know what you're saying. Like, I know what you're saying, Viv. I see what
you're saying. They have choice. And you have to think what an animal wants more. Does it want this temperature, this humid, whatever, more than it wants to be away from an animal? But we don't know the answer to that. We can only go on that on behavior.
Yeah. Unless you're monitoring the animal 24 hours a day, it's impossible to know how happy or unhappy they actually are. Even
then. Because animals are so different on different days. Like I've just put qanda in Kermit's old enclosure, which is 3 times the size of her old enclosure. She has not come out at all.
Yeah.
At all. And I'm like, well, is she happy? Is she not happy? I'll put her back in a smaller enclosure. She's out and about.
Yeah.
But I'm not here for half the day.
Yeah.
It could just be that she tucks herself to bed earlier.
Yeah.
But then also, if I am here and I sat and watched it and she's not coming out, is that just because she doesn't want to come out for a few days? Animals are so different and different days. And my room's a lot cold. My room's only 24 degrees right now. Normally it sits around 28. So the room's completely different. So animals are going to act differently. And I understand what you're saying. Obviously, it helps if you're there all the time.
Yeah.
But even then, they're behaving when they're hidden. They're behaving when they're buried. They're behaving when they're in cork tubes. They're behaving when they're underground. They're doing stuff even when you can't see them.
Yeah.
So it's.
I would 100% advocate for keeping William's eye in a pair at least. I've seen visual distress when I separated what I believe to be a bonded pair. It was actually heartbreaking.
I've seen that from my toad-headed garments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I brought a pair from a reptile show, brought them back. Within 2 days of getting them, the male passed away. The female did not move.
Yeah.
I brought another pair. Everyone said, no, don't put them in. You need to quarantine them, which I do agree with. But I worried for the safety of my female. So I put the pair in, which turned out to be 2 boys. But I put the pair in with the little one instantly. Tail wags running over, like wagging, So some animals need it.
Yeah.
And then I think it's worse to keep a communal animal solitary than it is to keep a solitary animal communally.
Yeah.
Or when I say solitary, I mean like an animal like a tree monitor and a skink, for example. Like I think you're a lot worse off keeping a single toadhead than you are putting a skink in with a tree monitor. Yeah.
This is a very, very human answer. For me, it depends on who tells me no. If one of you said it was a bad idea, I'd probably not do it. But some random asshat off Facebook, I'm doing it just to spite them. It's human nature, baby.
Damn it, Serenity. There's a time and a place, man.
Yeah. I've gained most of my knowledge on herps by asking more experienced keepers for help. Listening goes a long way. See, the thing with experience, that I get that, and I agree, because I've say when it came to the fish keeping, I asked Michael. When it comes to reptiles, the chances are I'm asking Paul. But then I think it might be a point you've made before, where someone that's kept royals in racks for 20 years could be considered experienced.
Oh yeah.
So that's again, you've got to be careful of the individual as well. Like,
where do you value their experience?
Yeah,
there's a line, man. There's like if you're looking to breed royals in a rack and you go to someone that's been breeding royals in a rack for 20 years, they're
incredibly experienced. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Where
I'm by the way, I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Dave. I'm just like, it's just a point that has been made to me before.
I was always told that if someone's willing to give you advice, you should give them the decency to listen.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to implement that advice or not, but if someone is willing to give you their time to give you a piece of advice, you should give them the decency to listen.
Yeah. Bailey's background, night guys, night Bailey. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining, my friend. I was thinking, just because some animals are classed as communal, it's not always a good idea to mix communal species. For instance, bilobates are highly sociable frogs. Philobates, I don't know. But will fight with other sociable frogs of another species. And I think that's the majority of the biggest thing that I've been thinking about is the different species thing. Like, oh man, there's so much. Like, my head is going into overload right now because there's so much I want to talk about and so much I want to touch on. It's like the same species, the different species, the enclosures.
Let's go into different. We touched a bit on like keeping the same species a little bit. It
Yeah.
has. I think this has been quite well structured, but it's also been everywhere.
Yes.
But not in a bad way.
Yeah.
So let's hash out, because I know you, so it helps. So welcome to therapy, everybody, with Paul and Riddler. This happens normally in the DMs, but we're going to keep this to just reptiles, not life stuff.
Yes.
So, what are you thinking of doing, and why?
I am thinking of that example I said
No.
earlier. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. There's your answer. It's been a pleasure. I am thinking. So obviously, I'm currently building another enclosure that a royal is going to go in. That's been living in a rack. Bingo. And
Caught me off guard. Anyway,
yeah, and I'm considering keeping those little Cameroon day geckos in with a royal python.
Yeah.
Now, because I think it's sick, and I'm not even going to make any sort of hidden agendas of education or anything like that. It could be educational, but I think it's a sick idea. But I also don't think it's dangerous.
Why do you think it's a sick idea?
Just the idea of
For
having
Americans,
two
that
different.
means good, by the way.
Yeah. I think they say sick as well, don't they? Or do they?
I ain't got a clue, mate.
I'm not sure.
I don't talk to any of them anymore since I left the chat.
No, I think they do. But anyway, it's just the idea of having multiple species from the same area living in the same enclosure and being able to see different natural behaviors. There's different, things that you can see at different times, seeing how they potentially interact, seeing how they behave. And I just think the idea of it is really, really cool. So I think that's why I think it'll be sick, because it adds more interest to. Now, don't get me wrong, part of it, and I'm not going to lie to anyone here, but royals can still be very boring in an enclosure. Now, that's not to say put them in a rack. All I'm saying is give them the space, they'll utilize it. But sometimes it's an empty enclosure. So would it be cool to have a little day gecko that's pottering around in there during the day and I can go, oh, look, there's one up there. Oh, look, there's a couple up there. And then when later in the evening or earlier in the morning or at night, I do see the royals as well. And I see, oh, look, that one's out. And his, do you know what I mean? Like it's.
Well, you mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Is that because you just don't see anything during the day? And hypothetically, if you didn't have the royal, would you still want the geckos?
I think it is mainly because it would give the same enclosure more life throughout the day.
Yep.
I think that's a big part to play in it, but at the same time, I don't see that as a bad thing. I'm not saying you did. I don't see that as a bad thing because the chances of anything happening to any animal's detriment is incredibly
slim to
low.
None. Yeah.
We won't say none, but slim to none.
Slim to none. Yeah.
And that's why I don't see that now.
One's mainly out at night. One's mainly out in the day. One's tiny.
Yeah.
One's not looking to eat. Yeah, 100%. In the instance of cohabitation, this is a good potential pick.
Yeah. Now, would I keep geckos in with my milk snake? No, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. She's a savage, and I think they are more likely to predate on like a smaller species of gecko. I'm not saying 100%, but the chances are high.
There's a higher chance, yes.
Yeah, a much higher chance. I don't think a 4 or 5 foot royal is going to go for a little gecko that's that big.
Also, have you seen how big the Cameroonian bay geckos are? Have you actually seen that they are like 1.5 inches?
I've not seen one in person. but I have seen that they are tiny. But I think that's got something to do with it as well, because I've already got. Well, I know some people disagree with this, that this size enclosure is still too small for a royal. It's nearly 4x2x2. Obviously, I had to make it a bit smaller, but some people will say it's too small for a royal, which is fine.
It's that line thing again, mate.
Yeah,
you know,
I know for a fact that enclosure is not too small for Cameroon day geckos. And if I can make it to the point where it's escape proof as well, so I'll mesh the vents, I'll make sure there's no way of I'll put obviously a lining in between the glass. I'll put, do you know what I mean, and make it perfect.
Yeah.
I really don't see the problem. And like Dave has said here, more visually interesting for the keeper. It just adds a new element without implementing the possibility of danger.
Okay, let's flip this on its head then.
Go on.
What's stopping you?
At the minute, nothing. Well, the fact that the enclosure isn't done.
So what has been the bugbearer of this topic in your head?
Well, this is the thing, but I think it's because it's not even just been for that example. For that example, I would have no problems at all putting anything online to show that I keep Cameroon day geckos with a royal python. People might send for me and say, Cohab bad, you're a bad keeper, you shouldn't keep reptiles, and I'll just go.
But it happens anyway, so
exactly.
Yeah.
The biggest part about this subject that has been playing in my mind is the keeping of the likes of, like frogs with green trees and skinks with tree monitors, where there is a potential.
When did it start? Was it when I was talking about it, or was it before that? Because I was talking about it a while ago.
It's been in my head.
I hadn't even had it built when I was speaking about it.
Yeah, it has been. I don't know. I've seen it crop up a few times, and I think in some other discussions I've had with other people, and the whole thing I saw with everyone trying to cancel Wiccans purely for trying something new. It's one of those that this little idea or this little thought started in my head, and it's just done this.
Yeah, blossomed. Yeah.
And I just keep thinking, and then we talk about it, and then I see other people talking about it, and then because I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Animals at Home did a podcast about it as well, about the cohabbing of different species. I've not seen it, but I know
he's
that
probably done a couple, to be fair to him. But
yeah. And it is, I think the thing that has helped is it is starting to sort of get spoken about a little bit more, and it's just a really
you think it's a
fascinating
natural transgression of the hobby then?
Potentially. And I think if people are going to, I think if it's going to happen, people need to do it right, and it needs to be shown that it can't be anyone. Like we've said in this podcast, you need to make sure for a fact that you are comfortable in caring for one species initially. You can't go, I want to get a couple of reptiles.
You need to be prepared to split them as well.
Yeah, of course.
2 setups.
Yeah. But if it gets to that point, if you can have a goal in sight and you've got a way of getting there, and you can see, and you've got trusted people that have got the experience to do so. Again, like myself and you were saying, it might not work. It's each animal is individual. It still might not work. But I still don't see why it can't be not the next big thing, but why it can't evolve into something like that.
My personal preface to this is I see no issue with it. I also don't see an issue with keeping frogs with tree monitors. Are they going to get eaten? Maybe. But what's the difference between keeping isopods with skinks?
Yeah. It's the values on. I think this is why it's been so interesting for me. It's the value on certain lives. It comes back down to the example I made of keeping fish, keeping a couple of bigger species that might predate on the smaller ones, but no one cares.
I think the reality is people don't want to see their pets, as in not. Let's just say I put frogs in with Kermit, say, and then he eats the frogs. People don't want to see frogs, their pets, eaten because people keep frogs. And it's the same as when you get dog meat in places that it's socially accepted to eat dog, everyone cries. Whereas in other countries, it's illegal and against the law and against religions to eat cows.
It's very interesting you say that, because you've just brought something else to mind. Now, to be fair to myself, I did put a trigger warning at the beginning of this reel. And it was one where one of my baby royal pythons passed away, so it was already dead. I froze it for a month or so, and then I fed it to Ragnar. Yeah. And I put at the beginning of the reel, trigger warning, monitor lizard eating dead royal python. And someone genuinely commented saying, I think you should take this down, because for those of us that have royal pythons as pets, this can be upsetting. I've got royal pythons as pets. I was the one that bred these babies.
But that's okay, though. It's okay that you said that.
Because, I mean, it is okay.
Yeah. But I see your point. But then I did
you see what I mean?
And no one batted an eye.
Yeah. Because we tried it at the same time, didn't we? We literally said, right, well, let's see. And I literally got someone saying, this is... And again, like, I get it. He didn't want to see it. But in all fairness to myself, the first part of the caption and the first part of the video was trigger warning, this is happening. But
yeah, you did nothing wrong. But
it's just, like you say, and I think that's got a lot to do... Oh, there goes my phone. I think that's got a lot to do with it. It's like people don't want to see... Like, because there's people that love frogs like more than anything. You know what I mean? Like, I quite like frogs. I'd like to keep them. And then if you're putting one in with a tree monitor and you say there's a potential that this frog might get picked off, but they should be all right. Like you say, that person is going to be going, what the are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, 100%,
but then there's people that love keeping rats as pets that see people feeding live rats to snakes.
Yeah. It's just a moral hierarchy of a line,
Yeah.
And like those people are probably eating pigs.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
I think that's the biggest part about this whole thing in my head. Is like, is there a line? Isn't there? Where is it? Who's to say who is right? Who's to say where we draw the line? Who is...
No one.
Because yeah.
You know what I find really funny, right? And I've always found it funny. Mainly in the reptile hobby, because that's kind of the hobby that I'm in. Like, and okay, let's put it. Someone doesn't eat meat. You take the mick out of them. We'll eat a burger in front of them. All this, we find it hilarious, right? Our snakes eat rats. People are like uproar. Whereas those same people are eating burgers in front of vegans. It's exactly the same. It's just perspective, and it's that picture of the shovel over the snake or shovel over the dog.
Yeah, the only difference is your perspective.
This topic is exactly the same, and we feed insects live. Some people keep insects, but those insect keepers also understand that these. Like, I personally don't eat anything that comes out of the ocean for my own personal beliefs. I don't do it. I buy crabs for mango. I buy some fish for mango. Yeah. It's against my personal beliefs, but it doesn't stop me doing what is needed and natural for an animal. Now, admittedly, they're not alive, and we're talking about potential alive. But what I'm saying is, like, just because you believe something doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and that could go into so many walks of life, but we won't get into that.
No, but it can be true for both.
Yeah,
Two things can exist at the same time, and that's how we get opinions, and we're all entitled to them.
Here we go. Big Mike Reptiles is here. Hear me out. Add a bosk to the royal enclosure. I'm in.
I had when I used to have my old big boss Rex, I had a Burmese baby that it just didn't do really well. It passed away. And I fed the Burmese baby to our boss, and that thing went psycho on this baby bird. Like smashing it, like similar to Ragnar, like smashing it around, and I couldn't even imagine. But then, when you're putting something like that, again, we'll bring it back. If you do put a royal in with a bosk, and your boss gets your royal, smashes it about, and like tortures it to the point of death, you have crossed the line with a majority of people.
Yeah.
If you put a tiny gecko in with a bosk and the bosk goes, "Ooh," and it's gone, oh, that's really sad. I'm
Yeah.
sad that's happened.
That's more of a, oh, whoops. Whoopsie. Yeah.
A little chicken nugget.
Yeah. Whoopsie.
Yeah, but I think it's all personal perception,
Mm.
which again is completely fine. But I think as a community, we need to understand that everybody has a personal perception,
Yeah.
and everybody is entitled to their opinions. And
Yeah.
you may wholeheartedly believe someone is wrong, and they may wholeheartedly believe that they're right.
Mm.
But if you lead it with "you're completely wrong, don't do this," blah, 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 they're never going to listen because you're
Yeah.
just fueling an ego.
Yeah.
If you can lead it with, look, A, B, C, D, they still don't have to listen to you. And the more that you give them energy, the more fall on you. Because again, you can only lead a horse to water. If they want to do it, they'll do it.
Yeah.
And again, outside of putting royals in with Bosk, we can all agree that's not particularly right.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But even then, why not? We know why not. But why is that okay? Why is that not okay? But putting locusts in with a Bosk is.
Mm.
I know the answer. Of course I do.
Yeah.
Because I value the snake higher than I value the locust. Of course I do. The boss doesn't need the royal to survive. It needs the locust to survive. There's a difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's how deep you want to dig the hole, really.
Dougie did berms and some types of geckos, as in Dougie Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, but he also keeps in palaces. So
Yeah, it was a while ago, but he does keep lemurs, tortoises, and iguanas together, and Asian water monitors, alligator snappers.
Yeah, the Asian water and the alligator snapper was the only one I was a bit like,
Yeah.
It's been fine.
Yeah.
You know?
I can't see a problem with geckos and royals at all, personally. See, that's the thing. Neither can I, and I think I will do it.
Are you worried about
like
backlash?
I say, do you know what? In this instance, I'm not. I know I might still get it, but I'm not worried about the backlash because I know I'm not doing anything potentially dangerous. I think that's the difference. If I was doing something where I thought there was a potential for animals to come to harm, I might go, oh shit, I knew this was coming. Oh god, maybe I shouldn't. But in this instance, if someone goes, no, you're wrong, you shouldn't do that, blah blah blah, I'll be like, well, don't bother me. But I think I think that's where my mindset is with this whole thing, is because I know how loud people can shout when it comes to opinions. And this isn't even about me. I'm talking like,
Reptile.
Yeah, literally like that. But like, not even just me, like just in general, like if someone comes out and says, I've done this, I've done that, I can already see. We saw what happened to, I hate going back to it every time, but we saw what happened to Wickens. He was dragged.
It takes forever to build a good name. It takes one bad. When I used to be an electrician, it takes forever to become a good tradesman. It takes one bad job to change that.
Yeah.
Same as the reptile keeping. It takes, try to build a social media following for a few years. It takes one thing that someone, especially with influence, doesn't like. Yeah.
I think it's because it's because if it was something that was split sort of 50-50, it's a bit different. Like, oh, it could work, it couldn't. But because the vast majority of people, and let's not beat around the bush, in the hobby, the vast majority will completely disagree with 6 leopard geckos in the same enclosure. I think that's where the problem lie.
Yeah, but even then, I'm not trying to defend him or not. I'm just trying to play both sides.
Yeah.
I don't know Adam. I've never spoken to Adam. So I have no horse in the race. But he didn't. I can't deny the fact he didn't get hate for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I also publicly, I don't think it was leopard gecko's fault, which is what the narrative was.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it was another TikToker.
Yeah.
And I do think it was social media believing someone's opinion, and it goes back to my point that no matter what you believe, that is true to you. You don't have to force it to somebody else. You can invite them to the table and you can say, hey, we believe this is wrong because of A, B, C, D, not you're a piece of this and you deserve this.
Yeah.
For both sides.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think it's right.
I think there will always be a part of the hobby that will reject cohabbing, like they reject naturalistic keeping in favor of racks. But part of the hobby will also look to advance and do more. And that's the thing. That's where I'm starting to wonder, where is this line? Where do we start looking at? Well, hang on a second, this could end up being beneficial, or it's not going to be detrimental, or what's the next step? Like, is there a next step in reptile keeping? Is there something that's going to be mutually beneficial for us and the animals? Well, we don't know unless we try things. Now, I don't know what that example can be, but sometimes we don't know until it happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
It sounds like cliche, but you don't know until you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then what you know to be true will be different to what someone else who's done the exact same experiment knows to be true. And we also have to understand that everybody's experience and everyone's animals are completely different.
And this is why I love the live stuff as well, because on top of that thing that Natalia just said, if you want to be technical, there's nothing more natural than cohabitation. This is why I love the live stuff, because everyone gets involved. You see all sorts of opinions, and it's true. But again, the thing that comes straight to my mind is then you've got the other side, and I'm not saying I'm either side, by the way. You've got the other side saying, yeah, but they're not in the wild, so why would you? But it's just, I don't know if you can see what it's doing to me right now.
Like, I find it so funny, honestly. I love it because, again, I naturally gravitate towards seeing both sides. And someone will say, oh, I'm a naturalistic keeper, blah, 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 whilst holding and booping their snake. No, you're not. Your enclosure is natural, but you're not a naturalistic keeper. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah.
I know I am. I'm a naturalistic. No, you're not. Your snake receives a meal on tongs every second Wednesday. No, you're not. You have a bit of grass in your enclosure, great, but no, you're not. And I don't care, but it's people that are going, oh, naturalism, whilst forgetting 80% of what they're doing isn't natural. And that's why I don't really. You missed a shout out, Michael.
Yeah, you did miss a shout out. I was being very nice to you, Michael. And
that's why I don't try to get too involved anymore, mate. I mean, you know that about a year ago, I stopped giving opinions publicly. I've been doing all this podcast, but I've been trying my best to play both sides. Just because I fully understand that my opinion is my opinion and your opinion is your opinion, and both can coexist at the exact same time. And for the most part, we're going to get on with our lives and we're going to live. So I just stopped giving my energy to it, and I just started going, this is how I do it. And these are my experiences, no one else's. If you want my opinions, please feel free to message me. If not, I'm not sharing mine because I don't care.
But again, I think that's where some of the problem lies, is those with opinions. There are some of them that want to make sure everyone knows that opinion and almost like it's fact. And that, like you say, it can be a detriment.
But then that's deeper than the reptile hobby. That person's obviously got a lot going on in their life, and I feel nothing but empathy for them. And I think if we look at life like that, if we can see empathy in people outwardly struggling by going, oh no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Well, who hurt you? Let's talk about it. And I'm not saying that to be condescending. That's probably the truth.
I used to feed my scorpions and tarantulas to my savannah monitor when they passed away. Circle of life, innit?
Yeah, you may not want that.
Well, like I say, I had royal python babies die and they went to Ragnar. I'd rather that than they go in the recycling bin. Oz Herps up at 6 a.m. to watch the boys talk about reptiles. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for joining. Michael, you missed your own chat. Yeah, he's going to have to go back and watch it. No, he's not. Look, Fee said Riddler talking about that one time you were nice to him.
Michael was just going to be like, what one time?
Yeah. So I wasn't even trying to be nice. Yeah, I was still being, Dave's saying when we had a dead ferret kits, the boas would have them. Waste not, want not. Yeah, absolutely.
Not,
absolutely. Go, look, I was nice to Riddler.
Yeah, I knew it, mate. I hadn't even got the chat up. I knew it. I speak to him too much. It's scary.
Mr. Ravishing Reptiles, thank you for joining, my friend. What's going on?
You don't let him speak to you like that, Riddler.
He's
He
don't
just
worry.
gets jealous when we're together because you
He
two don't have this
does.
dynamic. It just
I
doesn't
know
happen.
he gets up because what he's thinking, he's like, oh, what if
Do you know
Paul
what?
changes his mind?
This is no shade to E review, but do you know when I decided I'm no longer going to watch True Tales? You want me to tell you the pinpoint moment? I've got it. I've got it. This is no VAT. This is the truth, right?
Yeah.
You were like, I can't remember the exact context, but you're like, yeah, I put some cork on the background. And he's like, what? Cock? And you're like, yeah, cork. And he's like, what are you saying? And you were both arguing over the same word, and you were pronouncing it the same. And I was watching the screen, and I was like, what the am I
Exit,
watching?
yeah, escape. Yeah.
And then you were like, and you thought he was joking because how
Yeah.
could he be so simple to not understand you saying cork? And he generally didn't understand what you were saying. And then you were like, you know what you've got in the back of your Kimberly Rock bonnet enclosure? And he was like, oh, cork. And you were like, yeah, cork. And then you had a conversation over decorators cork and cork. And I was like, you know what? These two are making me dumb. So I am not listening to this conversation.
I still really want to clip. Do you know that time? Oh, what did he say? Oh, yeah, when he said about because that was another one that nearly made you quit was when he said about us drinking tea hot or something, and I just went. I still need to find and clip that because I really enjoyed it. But anyway, we're going on a tangent here. I fully plan on feeding stillborn boas to Jojo if we get any. I'm not going to waste them. And I don't see a problem with that. But again, this is the problem that I faced. This isn't to say that you're going to film it, but I filmed it because it was fascinating.
Everything is content.
Everything is content. It was fascinating to see. I put it online. I put a trigger warning, but I still had someone say, "Oh yeah, this could be upsetting for." And again, that's fine. Like that's up to you. But again, it's those that shout the loudest and all that. Just try it, Riddler. I will. And Natalia, we got your back. Appreciate you. Thank you. Do you feel we are there in the hobby to be doing this? See, this is another interesting point. Are there other things we need to be focusing on first? Is this one of those where there are still people keeping in racks? Like, I've still got to. Anyway, there's still people that are keeping animals in less than ideal enclosures and setups. So do we need to work on that first before we start trying to advance further?
Okay, I have the exact answer to this question, and it is in Michael's own philosophy, which I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
What you've just described is not my hobby. My hobby is severely progressed from the experience and knowledge that I've gained.
I see.
So why do I have to stagnate because others are behind me on the road? That's fine. We all are on a journey. No shade to people keeping less than me because there are many keepers keeping better than me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to look at it and go, Paul's only got his bloody tree monitor in a 4x4x6. That's pitiful. Oh, well, we better make sure. So where's the line?
Yeah. I like that.
Why do I? I'm getting all emotional. Why do I have to stagnate my hobby? Because your hobby, not you, but you. Where's my camera? You are behind me.
Yeah.
To no fault of anybody. And the hobby will progress faster the more the upper end of the hobby progress. And yes, all right, lesser keepers will go, oh wow, Riddler's cohabitating a gecko with a royal. I can do that. No, you can't. But then who am I to say no, you can't?
Yeah.
They try it, they do it, it works. Why am I keeping in racks? This is incredible. I can put the royal there, never see it, but I've got some cool geckos. The reality is you just want geckos, but come on, let's not kid ourselves. But why am I stagnating my hobby because of somebody else? And am I not bringing them up by showing where we can be? And am I not bringing them up by being open and honest? By every single post I do that's a big upgrade, it's very easy for me to go, oh yeah, 4x4x6 for a tree monitor. Took me 4 years to get there.
Yeah.
I don't lie.
Mm.
And is that not how we should be? Just telling our truths with our hobbies and sharing our experiences? And that is my answer to that question.
It's a very good answer to the question, because I'm not going to lie, you lost me for a second there, because when you said that's not
because
our
you're
hobby.
way behind me. That's what.
But I was just like, hang on, wait.
Like,
I was. It wasn't even that. I was questioning. I was like, wait, what did I actually just say? That he's. I got a bit lost. Allow me, but I do that quite a lot.
Because I'm a bloody higher entity than you.
I enjoyed your comment the other time. What is it? I don't know what HD is, but I've got 80 of them.
Oh, that's not mine. That's
no, I know, but
yeah.
I enjoyed that because it's very true. Dendro Dave, if you do it, I'll contact Peter. Well, some people have got my back.
What's he got to do with anything?
There you go. He said, "Who's we?" Who's we? Maybe not as a whole, but some keepers, in my opinion, are knowledgeable and experienced enough to at least try. That's pretty much what you were saying.
Yeah, I'm not going to let my hobby stagnate because other people aren't
there. Ken said, "Good point, Michael." To which Michael said, "Oh, Ken." Let's say.
Michael's got no chill.
Does he? Let's say cohabbing is neutral to the animals involved, but it enhances the keeper's experience and they are more engaged with the animals than do it. The keeper experience in the hobby is important too.
That's a hard one.
I know what you're saying.
I know exactly what you're saying, but I think I'm very vocal about finding core species and buying an animal. If it's not core, I genuinely believe it's better off of somebody else. So I think you don't have to cohabitate in order to do that. But I do agree. The number one priority, in my opinion, of the hobby is to enjoy your captives. Otherwise, you're not going to give them everything. You're just not.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how you get there. You have to breathe it to be able to give them the best. And if you're not feeling it with a certain species, I'm not saying you're obviously not saying this to Talia. I know you're not, and just bear with me. But if you're not feeling it with another species, I think it's probably better to move that on. You know, like when you're in a broken relationship, and you're like, you know, it's a great idea. Let's have a kid.
Yeah,
it's that kind of mentality. But I know what we're saying is if the animals aren't affected, you're going to enjoy it more. But then for me, just to again play the other side of every coin, maybe there's a species that you don't necessarily have to cohabitate, or there are species which we know benefit from being cohabitated that would suit your needs and wants as a keeper better.
Yeah. Hundreds of species cohabitate in the wild. Rattlesnakes and colubrids overwinter together. Lizards bask on top of turtle shells.
Yeah, we see it all the time in the UK. All the time.
Yeah.
Well, actually, someone showed me a picture of our local pond. You're similar around. You know Petersfield?
Yeah.
Yeah, Petersfield Heath. There's 3 yellow-bellied sliders in the heath. At least 3. Someone showed me a picture last week. They're like, "Oh, you need to get down there and sort it out. Now you got a new job." I was like, "My new job's not a turtle wrangler."
Turtle man. If I was to cohab, I'd have to do some extensive research and make sure I can do it right. I do cohab the dormice as they were changed before they came to me. The red eyes are kept together. Oh, the red eye tree frogs.
You got whites together as well, no?
But interspecies cohab, I'd have to research extensively.
I think as well, like that's obviously the right thing to do, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think as well, you're not going to know until you know.
Yeah.
You can research, and again, you can research a million times, and a million people will tell you one thing, and you could do it, and it could be the polar opposite, or it could in fact be re-backed up or reinforced is what I'm thinking there by the research you've done. So it's one of those things you can research until the cows come home, and you should.
Yeah.
But it won't be apparent what's going to happen until
it happens.
Yeah.
I will go for an elephant and dung beetles. That'd work. You must have some big enclosures. Yeah. When you have a big enough predator, there is a certain threshold where they just don't care, depending on individual about a smaller creature. A lion will eat a rabbit, maybe a rat, probably not a mouse, definitely not a skink. I know,
Okay.
and I agree. And this is what I'm saying with regards to a royal and these little skinks. The royal isn't going to see it as a food item because it's not worth its time and energy.
Especially if it's fed. I think that's the key factor.
Yeah,
If
of
you
course.
left it in there and just left them,
Yeah,
one day you might have geckos missing.
Yeah.
Because that need and that want becomes more apparent than, that ecological drive to survive becomes more apparent.
There are also some animals that have symbiotic relationships in the wild that they don't get to experience in captivity. Well, one example is the
Pistol shrimp and gobies.
the shrimp and gobies. That's it.
I don't even know fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So with regards to the cork thing, Ravishing said, "I blame his damn accent." Don't talk about my accent.
Said it the same way. You literally were arguing over the same goddamn word. Right? It was mental. I thought it was like a joke in real time, and I was like, "This is just not funny." And then they were like, "Oh no, you're being serious," and I was like, "That's even worse."
Yeah. I found it quite funny, to be fair. We're filming it. No trigger warning. People are too damn soft. So the feeding of dead boas to Jojo.
Yeah, but then I'm going to play the other side because I've done it with everybody, so it wouldn't be fair if I didn't. Are they, or are you just too hardened? Like, who are you to say someone's too soft if they don't want to see snakes being eaten? It's not wrong. Both are not wrong. And I think, and I know we're being sort of sarcastic. I understand that, but at the same time, if we don't see both sides, then we end up becoming dogmatic. And I refuse to be. Refuse. I watched the podcast the other day, and they were having a debate, and the whole conversation was dogmatic to one side. And I don't want this to be that. So everyone, come for me. I've got an argument for the other side.
Viv said whites are also cohab to see certain behaviors that they are social beings and interact with each other.
They're found quite in close knit in the wild.
Yeah. Clownfish and sea anemones. Aren't royals picky eaters? Are we worried a royal would eat a gecko when it won't eat a mouse for months sometimes? They're not as picky as people say. They have their moments, but you can, because I remember one of the first things I was ever told was don't offer like a treat. Like, don't offer the multi-mice because the next week when you offer a rat, it won't take it because it's enjoyed the treat. It's not true. That was said to me by a reptile shop owner.
Do you know what's funny? It's because I've been trying to play both sides the whole night. But that is stupid.
Literally said, yeah, just feed rats. Don't feed mice because they'll get a taste for them and they're not as nutritional.
I mean, I know it can happen if you feed one prey item solely.
Yeah.
And then they refuse. And it's not so much that they like it so much. Like, no,
that's what I was told. That's literally what I was told. But no, my royals have, I give them different meals. Not every time, obviously, but they've had chicks, they've had gerbils. Do you know what I mean? They've had rats, mice.
I think the royals going on hunger strike is they have a biological clock that naturally in the wild, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, someone on a different, let me think. They're South African, aren't they?
They are
they're the opposite equator to us. I don't think they're North African. I think they're South. I think they're South African.
I think they're West. I think they're West African.
Okay, what the point I'm trying to make is if they're below the equator, which I think they are, I could be wrong. They're the opposite time zone. So obviously their summer is our winter, vice versa. But they have rain seasons and dry seasons, and naturally in the dry season they go off food anyway, and it's opposite to us. So they go on these seasonal strikes, which they'd naturally experience because there's not as much food around. So that is what happens also with a lack of husbandry tied in. It just makes hunger strikes.
So they are pretty much
On the
No,
equator.
they're not. They're on the equator pretty much, but they are in the northern hemisphere.
Okay.
They are. That's it. They are Ghana, Togo, and Benin, and those
When
sort
is?
of areas.
I knew they were there, but I was trying to think where it was at. But where? Just Google for me, just so we can make this point and not spread misinformation. When is their dry season?
Royal Python and dry season.
I would imagine it's winter. Our winter. So what, like September, October time?
Most ball pythons lay their eggs during the second half of the dry season, from mid-February to the beginning of April.
That's the second half of the dry season.
Oh no, here you go. Marwell Zoo. Oh God, why is it taking me here in the wild? Where do I live? Breeding. Oh no, there's all too much for me to read.
We're gonna guess, because if the second part is our spring, we can guess the first part will be our winter.
Oh God.
I'm sorry I've done this, everyone.
Right, the wet season ranges from July to September. There you go.
The dry season is winter.
Is winter, yes.
Yeah, so naturally the dry season they would go off food.
Oh, that was stressful.
They would go off food when it's our winter, and obviously when winter comes in, the heating in our houses kick up, which drops humidity, which is good because it simulates the dry season. But everyone's like, oh no, it's too dry. Start spraying them. They've got biological memory to be like, no, we need to hunker down. And then lack of care as well is why I believe, like my girl and I, no matter how hot you keep them, in the winter, they go down. That's it. They're cold. No, winter. That's it. Yeah. So I think for me, that's why we get hunger strikes with royals.
Fee said, who is this Paul?
Which Paul? Please specify.
Yes, please elaborate. Reptilian mentality. Hi, I'm late. Hello, George. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you.
What's up? I'm just going to go back to the Fee comment. Do you like that Paul more, or do you like that Paul less? just so we're clear.
Okay, so with regards to what you said, Serenity, about are you too hardened as opposed to soft, then move on. You don't have to like it, but no need to throw accusations at people like Riddler.
I agree, but then you throw an accusation at them by putting that comment.
I hate TikTok dances. In fact, I'd go so far as to say they offend my eyes, but I don't try and cancel the people. I just move on.
No, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But I was probably being facetious.
Yeah.
But the comment was passive aggressive towards those people, and that comment towards Riddler was again passive aggressive. So I understand the point, and I know obviously you personally, so I'll know your opinions personally. But I'm just, I do not want this conversation to just be, it's got to be. Yeah. It's got to be. Yeah. Otherwise, you and I become the problem.
Yeah. See, this is what I mean. This is why I've enjoyed getting it out there, because I've been fighting both sides in my head and questioning and querying, and obviously by doing it by myself, I don't know what other people's opinions are. Now, I'm not saying that to the fact that I need someone to reassure me and I need them to encourage me. Yeah, you can do that. You should do that. It's more, I don't know the general consensus, and I also want to see where it can go. I'm really curious to see, because I think it's a shame. I genuinely believe it's a shame that some people are too scared to come out online and show what they're doing. Like, if it's working, let's say they've had like different animal, like reptile species cohabbing absolutely fine, perfectly fine for a year, 2 years, no problems, but they haven't said anything for fear of just being cancelled and you're a bad keeper and things like that. Well, how do we know that we can or can't do it if people are too scared to come out? And that's why I'm quite happy with this, and that's why I'd be happy to come out and say, by the way, here's my royal enclosure. Yeah. Here's my little Cameroonian day geckos that are going in with them. Cool. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I'll say the same to those people. They shouldn't make people feel small and belittle them. Both sides are wrong.
Yeah.
It could be how come you're doing this? Why are you doing this? What have you seen? Not, this is wrong.
Yeah.
I hate opinion-based husbandry.
Yeah.
Hate it because it's not factual.
Yeah.
But two things can be true. My fact truth of keeping and your fact truth of keeping are factual because they're experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Reiterating what you've heard some influencer say is a load of rubbish, even if you've heard it from me, because you've not lived it. You can go, Paul's monitors has said ABC on XYZ, but you haven't lived that. It's not your truth, so it's not your right to share that truth.
Yeah,
and that is where I think we go wrong.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, it just circles back around. Like, we could have the same species in the same setups and with the same parameters, but one of us can have a good experience and one of us could have a bad thing. That doesn't mean one of us is wrong. It's down to individuality. And I think my main point is just it does come down to the fact that people almost aren't allowed to talk about it. I think that's my biggest concern.
But that is because of the TikTok generation.
Yeah, it is.
That is, like, you don't get old hat keepers going, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, because back in the day they were sticking incandescent lights in flower pots to keep reptiles alive. Now they're like, oh yeah, no, how can you believe? Oh my god, it's so archaic. It's disgusting. Oh my god, like, we would never do that. Well, you're very fortunate that you're well off, and you have the plethora of knowledge built by these pioneers.
Yeah.
So who are you to question? Because you don't see the younger generation trying to push this. It is kind of the older generation still, because it's like, even if the younger generation are doing it, they're like, oh, I know this is going to go wrong on social, because they're part of that clique.
Yeah.
And they understand it better than everybody. We're weird because we're in this middle generation where we were born without the internet, but then also it's kind of second nature. We kind of feel this weird niche where we're like, well, yeah, I remember bloody cassettes and VHS, but also Bluetooth me that song, infrared me. Like, we were that generation. We're just encroaching into our 30s. At least one of us is. But
I'm 31 on Saturday.
On Saturday?
Jesus,
you're 31 before I'm even 30.
Oh God! Do you remember how depressed I was this time last year about turning 30?
I'm turning 30 in August, so we'll see how I go. But we're this weird middle generation where we can kind of understand both sides, And when I was on building sites, you go in, the new apprentice is there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you all right, mate? Yeah, all right. When were you born? 2006. Sorry, what?
Yeah.
It's just a different world, but it's the same in the reptile keeping, and it's not the 2006-year-olds' fault that they don't understand what the 1960s, 50s people were doing, 1970s people were doing. It's been lost in translation in the hobby because people aren't exposed to that anymore, so it's very easy to not understand history. But I think it's a detriment to the hobby itself to forget our roots, because without roots, you fall over.
Well, this has reminded me of a saying, and we're about to go pretty deep here. This is deep. And the saying is, which I think really, really can be brought into the reptile hobby as well, is this: if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. And this is what I mean. How are we going to continue to have giants if we've got people cutting them down?
We need roots, man. Without roots, we fall over.
Oh no! And then we've gone from that to Riddler. Sorry, mate, you're definitely at least 40.
Riddler had a real life uphill paper round.
I did.
Like, Riddler, honestly, grafted when he was young. Proper callous knuckles, this boy.
That's why I try not to graft anymore, because I've already aged far beyond my time. I can't believe I've just come out with that deep, saying.
Got the back, knees, and look of at least a 6-year-old.
The mentality, not so much.
Which is kind of what makes it kind of weird and creepy, to be honest.
I guess so, yeah. I would actually like to try monkey tail skinks with green tree pythons. They share trees in the wild. That's crazy.
Why not? I mean, monkey tails are pretty savage, but at the same time, they're not looking to eat green trees.
Yeah. it's good to question practices, but I see what you mean about it going too far with the TikTok generation. Well, George, if anyone's going to know the TikTok generation, you love a bit of TikTok, so you've seen it.
I hate it.
I'm on it. I don't mind TikTok. I'm not on there that
hate
much,
TikTok.
but it's a funny one because it has its good and bad. I think if you are of the opinion I hate it, then that's it. There's no going back. I don't mind it, but I do sometimes find
I
it's a
can
bit
see it
much.
has a place. I was having a conversation today that TikTok, for the most part, standard of care seems to be higher, but obviously the direct correlation is the users are younger.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you're starting the reptile hobby younger, you've got T5, you've got jungle dawns, you've got like fancy enclosures, you've got all the fancy thermostats, you've got all of this stuff, you've got naturalistic substrate, you've got everything. How lucky? That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's luck.
It comes down to that saying I've just said.
Yeah, you're lucky you were born then. So obviously TikTok is a younger user base.
Yeah.
So obviously by default, you're more likely to keep better being younger. Instagram's middle ground, Facebook's old hat. So the standard of care does drop from the social platforms because of the age demographic. But what I think is wrong is the TikTok generation say to the Facebook generation, that's disgusting, that's wrong. I think it's disgusting and wrong that you're saying that. Now, we can probably agree what is being said or being done or being seen is disgusting and wrong, and it's old hat. And I hate this term, oh yeah, well, you know, all that opinions and thoughts will die with them. Oh, well, come on. Without them, you wouldn't be here. You know, literally, physically, mentally, and physiologically. Like, you just would not be here. Like, I wouldn't keep how I keep if it wasn't for people keeping in bloody shoe boxes with incandescent lamps in bloody plant pots.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't. And we have to inspire these younger keepers to be able to continue this hobby and allow a ladder to elevate everybody, not be like, we have to be inclusive. We have to be wholesome with this. We have to stop attacking in-house. Because at the end of the day, like, let's be honest, if we're not sensible, in 5 years, none of us are keeping reptiles because they're going to be banned. Shout out. And that wasn't even a shameless plug. But
no, it wasn't.
They did send me a sick poster, so shout out to them. but it's true. And if we're at war, if we're having a civil war, who is going to take us seriously? No one. And I'm seeing behind the curtain more and more and more as I'm getting into this hobby through my sort of career and everything now. It's real. Like, it's real. And it's very easy to sort of look on the news and watch what's happening in other countries and watch what's happening in different parts. And you go, oh my God, like, you know, I was like watching a series. This is never going to happen to me. Like, oh, it may never happen to us. It will.
Yeah.
So stop being twats. Belittling everybody for caring in a certain direction or not, you know. And also at the same time, Riddler, we do have to be careful, not you, but we do have to be careful what we post. Of course. Is it a good idea to post a roughneck eating a royal? That is another line question. Is it a good idea for me to post Mango eating an Aki? That is another, is that a good idea? Is that showing our hobby in the best light?
Yeah.
Is it? Now, everyone's line is going to be different. And because we're misunderstood, oh my God, yeah, that lizard eating another lizard was disgusting whilst they're eating a beef burger. The hypocrisy, but, you know, big fish eat small fish. We're small fish.
Yeah.
We have to be careful. And that's not me being like, we have to be careful.
We house retics, blood pythons, butterflies and fish together, inverts and snakes, eyelash viper and fish, rattlers and corns. Crazy. Sick.
Especially in Australia as well.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I need to get you on the Q&A at some point, Zach, or a Riddler's Rambles pre-recorded, whatever you want.
Do you want to know something mad, right? I had an Australian message me recently, and they were holding a Herman's tortoise. I think it was a Herman's tortoise.
Yeah.
Obviously, common as mud to us. And he was like, whoa, because obviously they can't have non-natives.
Yeah.
So he was like, whoa, what? Oh, no, I think it was Zach as well. He was saying about seeing his first or touching his first leopard gecko.
Yeah, because he went to
Bali,
went to Bali. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
come again? He was like, yeah.
RRK gang, yeah. I feel you. Yeah, no. Shout out responsible reptile keeping. Blimey, this went about as I expected in a good way. We've gone in.
That you're a dad of two.
Oh, mate, do you know what? The good thing is, and again, I know we said no tangents, but the good news is Em does all of the nighttime stuff. I'm talking, she sleeps in the nursery, she sleeps with obviously the little one and things like that. So she's doing all of the midnight stuff. Yeah. What I'm doing is I'm waking up. I'm waking up earlier to obviously get my son out of bed when he wakes up and blah blah blah, and I'm caring for him during the day. But it's still knackering, like, because obviously I'm sort of doing the majority of the cooking, and like we take the cleaning in terms of it's adjusting to having two kids. It's gone all right, touch wood, so far. Luckily I haven't fallen into depression, which is lovely. That's things we love to see.
Yet,
but you know, we're drawing lines, but it's pretty knackering, and I'm not even back at work yet. But like I say, I try to relax more when I'm at work than I do at home. So there's an Instagram account I follow that has a massive greenhouse with tons of variety of species frogs. I've seen that one recently. I
forget his name, but the guy's got a big pond.
Yeah, it's a massive planted greenhouse, isn't it? It's become quite well. I've only seen it recently, so I'm not going to say it's only become big recently. But
no, they've been
I know the one.
While.
Yeah, I know the one you're on
doing
about.
Good bits on socials.
I'm gonna DM you a bomb salmon recipe, Riddler. Thanks, Gary. Oh, there you go. A Life Exotic. That's the one. Seen that they've got a big pond with a cake. Yeah, that's the one. But
I am listening. I'm just going to turn these lights off before I forget. Now you see me? No, you don't.
No, you don't.
I'm gone.
It's the thing is, I was hoping to come away from this a little bit clearer in my mind on the subject, but not that I'm looking for, like I say, I'm not looking for validation and an excuse to do so.
Why do you not think it's clearer?
I don't know. Well, I'll tell you why. Because there's not really a question that can be answered. Because all we've said is we don't know until you try.
But isn't that then the answer?
Yeah, I guess so. But then, like I say, it's like I think
2 hours.
I think it boils down to the human factor of it. Would it be easier to do? Would it be easier to do without social media?
I think the reality is, when you strip this back, there becomes multiple layers. Because I'm very vocal that I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a very emotional man. I'll get hate on social media, even though I have nothing but the best intentions. I don't do anything for clout or fame or clicks. Or I don't do it. I do it to help. So I get a negative comment and I go, oh man, like, why me? Like, oh, I'll beat myself up. Oh yeah, blah 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 blah. When you strip that down, that negative comment, if it's offended me, holds some level of truth. Now that brings us back to the original part of the conversation, where it's like, listen to everybody, even people you don't agree with, because if you're getting offended and you're feeling the need to argue with this person, there probably is some level of truth in the conversation. And I think it's very important to be self-aware and look at that for a whole picture, not just this guy said something to me on the internet. Like for example, let's use the Cameroon day gecko. Oh my God, rid of reptiles, keeping a Cameroon day gecko as well. And oh wow, we're going dark. We're going Bravo 6, going dark. we're and it's not affected my ego. I don't really care. But then, if you were keeping it with, say, a Madagascan day gecko, and someone was like, they've got completely different care, Riddler, but you'll rub it, and you get upset. You've not got upset because of that comment. You've got upset because there's a level of truth to the comment. And I think it's important to understand that and be able to compartmentalize that and take positives from negatives and understand why we feel that, how we feel. And that person shouldn't have led with that comment. So again, to the both sides of the coin, you should not attack. You should always just be like, hey, did you realize that these guys are actually from here? Their basic requirements are this, and these guys are from here. Their basic requirements are that. You're actually putting that lizard to a detriment, and you should probably do it in a DM. You shouldn't make that stuff public because people hate to be humiliated.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you want to be on a high horse, and I've seen some stuff on social, and I'm like, should I message? Should I not? And I just don't. I don't get involved. And if you want to get involved, more power to you. But don't be upset when that person doesn't receive your advice. You've done what you can. You've led the horse to water. If they don't drink, you move on. That's it. And then we as a community become symbiotic. And we start holding each other accountable. I asked on your live stream with George, what gives people the right to be, social media educators? Like, where's that line? Because there are people on here that you and I both know that haven't got a clue. That's fine. That's their truth. They're allowed to be. Does that make it any better or worse? No, that's a conversation that we have to internalize as the hobby. Like, I have no right at all, full stop, to tell anybody what they can do. Of course I don't. Outside maybe my child, but I don't have that right. But I do have ideas and consensus that a lot of the community would agree with. Then the question is, do you act upon it? And then if you do act upon it, does that person hear the advice, regardless of cohabitation, regardless of incorrect husbandry, regardless of whatever the case is? Do they hear it? Do they well receive it? Do they grow? Do we elevate them? Do we bring them up the hobby? Do we advance the hobby by advancing ourselves? I don't have those answers. It's one of those things you just have to find out. And that is the journey that I've been on for the last year. Like, you've known me now for a couple of years. First year, this person's doing this, I'm trying to help. Blah, 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 blah. The last year, don't message anybody. I just do me. And if anything, I'll get more and it helps that my following's grown. So obviously the correlation is not true, but I'll get more messages, people now going, because of what I've done and who I've become by putting energy into myself, I now hold regard in people's minds. Like, if I want one or two advice, like a message Paul, he's pretty sound. He's not just got followers, he's shown, he's proven. But then I've also had to work. If I spent more time working on other people, I wouldn't have achieved what I've achieved now. You can't pour from a bottle that's half empty because you'll burn out. You have to fill your cup before you can pour. You have to. And sometimes my cup's not full and I still try and pour and help these people. And then I get upset with their responses. They're not, I had someone message me recently that their Savannah monitor had burnt their back, and I was trying to help them and I was getting really frustrated that they wouldn't listen. But that's not on me. I was upset for the animal, of course I was, but I did what I could do and I did it politely. But that sat with me for ages. And then it was like, well, do I just not bother? Do I just not bother helping people? But then the ones that do listen, and this whole thing becomes more apparent when you. And it's exactly the same with the cohabitation. You're going to do this gecko stuff. People are going to look at you because you're an influencer, regardless if you influence one person or a million. It doesn't matter. You're an influencer. You're in a position of power, and if to post that stuff, you abuse it. Let's just hope you're abusing it for good. And that's all I'm asking for people to do. Because for what you and I do, and we go live for 2.5 hours, it's incredibly hard to not be yourself. And I just hope that people will listen to people that they like. It doesn't have to be me. If you don't like me, cool, you're entitled to that. Both sides of the coin. You can think, shut up, Paul, what do you know? That's true. But then at the other side of it, I'm just trying to show this hobby in a light where we all can coexist. Rack keepers, clinical keepers, pet breeders, and mass breeders. We can all coincide, but the lines are still blurry. And the whole time we fight and don't discuss, the lines will never become apparent. And the hobby will never elevate. And we will be stuck in the mud until eventually we become extinct.
It's the whole divide and conquer thing as well. If we can't come together, then we're already being divided and we're easier to conquer. And that's where a lot of this comes in. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. But yeah, it's interesting for sure. It is really interesting. And it gives food for thought. And like you say, we have to be careful with what we post. We need to realize that we're influencing. So this is what I mean, and I think that's part of it as well. That's part of my thought process, like, is thinking about it's thinking about what I'm showing and who it's being shown to. But yeah, hang on, let me just have a. I've sort of been keeping up to date with the chat, but we won't go into that. But I saw that Phil was here. Hello, Phil. Thank you for joining, my friend. Appreciate you, and I will get back to you with regards to your DM. I've just very, very busy. Dan is in the chat again now. Welcome back, Dan. And
he finished his night
finished his barbecue or whatever it was. Tapas, that's it.
Dan taps ass.
And yeah, they're all as Fee has said here, the chat and video are not linked at all. No, I've been seeing it on my screen, to be fair, but it's fine. We've carried on. But yeah, I mean,
the chat, I can't see it. It's really weird.
The chat has been talking about 420 and having barbecues. Before we start wrapping up, have you genuinely got any, and you don't have to say if you even do, have you got any plans of cohabbing different species? I know you mentioned the frogs and with the dragons. And again, you don't have to say yes, you don't have to say no.
The answer to the question is yes. But what is, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
But over the next year, I will probably, I'm not going public with this, but you know what's going on in my personal life right now.
Yeah.
So the reality is for this next 6 months, a lot is going to change, but also nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
But once life settles down again, I would like to experiment a bit more. I'm quite into communal species because you do see true social behaviors. Like adding a skink to a tree monitor, it's cool, and you'll see cool behaviors, but you'll see it's not behaviors that they've evolved like in tandem. You know, they are what they are. They're from the same niche. They do what they do. Whereas the Stenodactylus, they talk to each other. They'll come up to each other and they'll greet each other and they'll bow and they'll wag their tails.
That's so sick.
They'll sort of rub their hands and they'll chirp and they'll drink water of each other. And the toadheads will sit at each other and they'll proper thrash their hands. Check out Habitat TikTok for a video on that right now.
Yeah.
But they'll, and they'll wag their tail and they'll communicate. Whereas I don't think you'll get that with your gecko and your royal. Now, what we're talking about are two completely different things.
Yeah.
And obviously, but I think I would like to do some sort of frog in with the forest dragons. I think that would be cool. I think it's good to do a nocturnal species with a diurnal species because obviously then you really reduce the risk. And Kermit's big 4x4x6. Maybe. There's going to be some changes, but I've got. I can't show you now. The lights are off. There's a whole plethora of grass. I've got like 3 inches of grass growing in the bottom of the whole of it. Rocks, sticks. Like I could house some cool stuff in there, but I don't know. Is the answer to the question. I've toyed with putting the forest dragons in there, and having just like 4 branches, and that's it. And then they can just move like they would literally be in the wild. But I'm enjoying communal species that signal to each other because that's a cool dynamic of behaviors. Like, and I'm out at night. I don't sleep until sort of 12, 1 o'clock. So for me, having a nocturnal species in a few enclosures would be cool because I would see the dynamic. Whereas for you, obviously, it's like you're in bed by 8, and I'm not trying to mug you off. But
no, it's
so
true.
You need that day stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I'm at work all day,
Yeah.
so I almost need the night stuff. So
Mm.
the stenos, I'm really enjoying, and I'm going to get some more stenodactylus. I have 5 gravid females right now, but I'm going to add more to the group, and I'm going to create different setups for them to see how they socially interact in different environments.
Yeah.
In comparison between enclosures, because that really gets my brain going. And I quite enjoy the social aspect of like the killer nine that here, because they wrestle and they show combative behavior to no detriment because it is 100% natural and a ritual. Same, for example, with garter snakes and like the breeding of garter snakes and like the balls and how they'll interact. And because of what's going on in my personal life, I missed out on 5 baby gecko smithy, and they're just basically green-eyed tokays that again will rip up food and feed it to the babies and have a parent dynamic and all that sort of stuff. That to me is more interesting than adding skinks in with Kermit, because these animals biologically will interact with each other. You benefit and they benefit from cohabitation. So I'm probably going to more lean on that. But I would like to experiment with something and I wouldn't have done it in the smaller enclosure with Kermit. But now that he's in a massive enclosure, I would like to experiment with something. But it would be incredibly important to both species for me to pick correctly. So I'm not going to go into it and be like, I'm just going to stick them in there.
Yeah.
And I would probably only start with 1 or 2 of said whatever I do, just to see how they interact, because then at least I know I can house, and I would only get a species that I'm willing to house separately.
Yeah.
Because if I'm buying, let's just say, a gecko that I don't want to house, if it doesn't work with Kermit, then it's unfair for me to buy that gecko.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah,
a lot of thought that needs to go into it, but it is something that I enjoy. Social dynamics of reptiles, because they're so advanced and we don't give them credit for it. Like watching the stenodactylus literally pat like this at each other, like bow down and do this.
That's sick.
Like it's like, what are you doing? What are you trying to say? What's going
Yeah.
on in your little head? And they're, I mean, you've seen them. They're like,
I love them. I think they're class. I think they're so cool.
Pig noses because they bury themselves in the sand and stuff. Like that interaction interests me. And I can sit and watch them for ages, but the problem is they're out at night and you've got to watch them like this and like trying to pick out their behaviours, because it's like putting a flashlight on them kind of defeats the object.
Yeah.
So I'd probably like to go down that route. I think my keeping going forward is going to change anyway because of the new job and time constraints with that, plus the changes that I've got to make that are out of my hands.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of really changed my perspective on life, which will become apparent to everybody at some point, but just not yet. So I might lean more into that. And then at the same time, I might sell everyone and just keep tree monitors. So where's the line? Yeah.
Again, we don't know until we know.
Stay tuned.
It's like I can't wait to pair my tokays together. Like the male is still a little bit too small. I'm really looking forward to doing that. And also, as you know, one of the other species I want to keep would be garter snakes as well, I think, because again, like you say, it's natural behaviors that they would exhibit in the wild, naturally communal, less of a concern, and I think that would be sick. And again, like I say, we won't go on for too much longer because it's nearly 10:30, but the biggest thing for me, I remember, coming across all like your page and other monitor pages and seeing monitors housed together and no one batting an eyelid, and yet 2 leopard geckos, you're immediately the worst reptile keeper that's ever lived. So
best believe they're not communal.
It's crazy.
Like, nothing.
So yeah, it's just a really fascinating subject for me, and it I think about it a lot and have been a lot recently, which is why I wanted to do this. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious. And what like I say, what else fascinated me was the amount of people during these stories that messaged and said, "Oh yeah, do you know how many people do this? Person does it. I've done it. This person has done it. They tried this in that zoo." And I really enjoy it. And I think it could end up being more popular as long as it's done correctly.
You know what? Something it goes along with cohabitation. Something that probably next year, if all goes to plan, I want to start keeping stuff outdoors.
Yeah.
Like lacertids, so like the green lizards, the chilled lacertids, the wall lizards, maybe even garter snakes. Obviously not all together, but I would like to try and communally keep species outdoors. Like we can keep fire salamanders outside year round here.
That's sick.
You know, they're European, so you know, I really want a common snapping turtle that I can keep outside.
Yeah.
Because again, they're North American, and where they come from, they go down. So with the correct, especially because I'm down south, same as you, we have a decent climate.
Yeah.
I would like to experiment with that if time, space, and money allows. Maybe some greenhouse keeping, like keep some European green tree frogs with some like jeweled deserters in the greenhouse. Similar to what Celtic, reptile, and amphibian do. They keep a bunch of stuff outdoors.
Yeah.
And then compare the difference between internal and external keeping, and also you can get the whole winter off because they just brumate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something I'd like to toy with. I think that's probably going to be the next step in my career. Is experimenting a little bit with some outside species. I really want to own leopardus, the jeweled lacerta. I want a big melanistic male and 2 colourful females.
Nice.
And it will happen, but not until I can keep outdoors, which touch wood will be if I get some babies sort of end of this year, start of next year, then I can winter them artificially so they're used to it, and then put them outside in the spring, allow them to acclimatize to spring. Ideally, I'll just get them off a breeder that breeds from outside. That'd be the ideal, because then I can do it outside. But I think that's where I'm going to go next. I would also like to do there's a page I've recently discovered on Instagram. I think her page is like insectivorous snakes or something like that.
Yeah.
And it gave me some nostalgia of rough green snakes, and I would like to try the rough green snake Anola setup again. I would like, whether I do that sort of as a side project at, like, I don't know, at work in my office or something, or whether I do that in my personal keeping, I don't know. But it's trying to find the rough green snakes. But so it's something that's been on my mind. But I'm kind of a cursed keeper, mate. As you know, I'm never happy. I'm always tinkering. I always want something, and I'm always chasing no more snakes at work. Fee, Jesus. I struggle with snakes. I really do.
I know.
Bloody things. I really want Candoya, the Solomon Island ground boas. I really want one. I really want one. Anyway, I always have to be tinkering. I always have to be playing around with stuff. I always have to. One, it's ADHD, and two, I'm just never satisfied. I have to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
So I get quite bored quite quickly. So it's very rare for me to find a species that is true, like mango. It's not necessarily the species; it's the individual, like Kermit, like Cada, like Raven. You know, these forest dragons have really got me going at the minute. Like they're really cool. They're hard work as well, which is a nightmare. But I think for me, I'm going into now harder species and challenging myself on the harder stuff. Not that indicas are easy, but you know what I mean. Stuff that's not been bred. Like these forest dragons haven't been bred in the UK, and I'm not doing it because they've not been bred in the UK, but because they need figuring out. They look really cool, and I feel like I can
they're
do
stunning.
them. Yeah, so that kind of thing. I literally said to the guy that had them in the petrol, I went in there on a Saturday and I said, like, I haven't got the money. Don't sell them. I want them. And he knows me quite well. And he just laughed. He said, mate, look, if you want them, just, I said, no, I'm going to find the money. And less than 24 hours later, I come back and I was like, I found the money. And he was like, but, I spent 35 minutes yesterday pouring water down branches so they would drink, and it's real work. It's real work. But I know once I produce them, it'll be so rewarding. But then the problem is, like we speak about privately, well, then is that it?
Yeah.
And then is it on to the next? And the answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got the chat up now. Furious to be.
They're talking about boxing.
Usyk will win.
You know what? I understand that all too well, because I can be midway through a project and already be thinking about the next one. Now, not in the way of, again, that it is a detriment to animals, but it's like I'm building a Viv at the minute, ready for another Royal. But then at the same time, I keep looking at the beardy enclosures that have been upgraded like twice in the last year or so, and I'm going, I could do better there. Here's what I want to do. I want to do this custom setup. I want to do this background. I want to make sure I can do this, but I need to do other bits first. And but it's crazy because, like you say, there's always something ticking up here that I want to do. And it's just, and I think that's why this has come up as well, because it's another idea that could potentially become something, but it's never ending, man. But I enjoy that about it though, in a way. Like, I enjoy the fact that it's never ending, because it keeps me on my toes and it keeps me engaged and interested. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. It's forever changing because it's animals.
Yeah. Which is why this could be a massive change as well. Like the fact that we're talking about this, and the next potential test, trial, tribulation, whatever you want to call it, could be something completely out of my norm, which is cohabiting different reptile species.
What's interesting is, and again, I'm not trying to mug you off, but you're kind of in this infancy of keeping, and everything you've just walked into like Willy Wonka's factory, and
facts.
So new and shiny. Whereas I'm a bit now like Augustus Gloop, and I've eaten all the chocolate, and it's kind of like, well, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, you still get that sugar crave,
Yeah.
and you still need more, but you just have kind of refined your taste a little bit. Whereas both are dangerous, untapped, if you like. Both can be a detriment to yourself and your animals, and keeper burnout's a real thing. And I do think we need to start perpetuating. I think Bailey was saying it, upgrading your animals before you buy anything else. I think, especially if you're a public figure, I think that's so toxic. Because you're entitled to do what you want to do, but I don't think it shows the hobby in the right light. And I think you need to be aware of that. If you want to just keep buying animals and keep chasing the highs, like we all do, that's completely fine. That's your truth and that's your prerogative. But I don't think we should perpetuate it. And then it comes back to that whole, who should be doing this and who should be doing that. But for me, it's like, okay, I have a species here that I have no idea what makes them tick at all. So where do I start? Okay, let's try this. You know, the thermal conformers, which basically means they don't bask and they move up and down and find air currents. That's what they are, right? I've got a halogen and a DP in there, so they can pick. They both bask. They're thermal conformers.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's next then? What can I see? What can I do? What can I tinker with? Like the male, when I got him, was a bit ropey and he would eat nothing but roaches. Now he smashes everything because of the time and energy. And that to me is rewarding. I enjoy that. And they're always out. Like the female's sat right there now, like just sleeping out on a branch. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Scared the life out of me because he's noise cancelling. Because I can hear it. I'm going to die. People have to do the washing up. Anyway, I completely lost my train of thought with that. But yeah, I like.
He said, "My bad."
I like figuring stuff out.
Well, it's like you found out about the 99% humidity during the night.
Yeah, 27.5 degrees, 99% humidity, which is mad. So shout out Habitat for the humidifier and the Rainmaker Pro. No, guys, I didn't get it for free. I paid for it with my own money, all right? But yeah, like all jokes aside, I would have just given them a nighttime drop. I have a deep heat running on them all night now. Like 24/7, they have a deep heat 24/7. just to keep an area of the viv warm, but then also giving them this big gradient and trying to just figure them out. That for me is more interesting than throwing another species in and seeing how that species will interact.
Yeah.
Both are cool.
Yeah.
But adding a tree monitor and a skink, for me in my order would be figuring species out, keeping communal species that have communal behaviors, then mixed species enclosures. To look at the mixed species enclosures to top, but for my keeping, which I think Talia was saying is important that the keepers fulfilled. For my keeping, I need to be able to see an animal regularly. I need to be able to interact with an animal regularly, whether that's just watching, but I still need to be able to interact with it, and I need to be able to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And if I can meet those 3 pillars in a captive, I figured out, and again, it brings me back to the Willy Wonka thing. I figured out that's my 3 core, most important things for me when I keep. I have to be able to, house it correctly and feel like, and that's why I struggle with snakes, because I can't put a royal in a 4x2x2. I couldn't do it. I'd have to give it like a 6x2x2 or more. I'd have to. And I'm excessive, and I don't want to give a royal that space, not because they don't deserve it, but because I know that I'm not going to enjoy them, because I won't see them, they won't be active, and I can't interact with them. So they don't meet my pillars. Yeah, I still fall back in and oh, Bredl's python, maybe.
Yeah.
Nope. So I think it's important that we understand who we are, what we need, when we need to go. And I'm trying to get to grips with who I am and my points, because I think keeper restraint is very, very important.
Yeah.
And it's all, I could be gun happy and trigger happy. I've got access to some stuff and some people that will be like, I'll sort you out. Like, give me this, I'll give you that. I'm very, very lucky to be in the position I'm in. But also at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, do you want this? I was offered I've been offered 2 tree monitors in the last 2 weeks. The 5 bloody green-eyed geckos. I was told about them before they even were public. I was like, you have to be careful. You have to think about the animals. You have to think about your limits. You have to think about like what you can do and what you can achieve. I'm gonna get Stenodactylus eggs any day, and for me, breeding is more important than cohabbing. In terms of different species, because for me, that's what I like. It's what I do. So now I'm gonna get eggs from Stenodactylus. It's like, okay, I need to incubate. I need to figure the incubation out. I need to do this, and then I'm gonna hatch little baby Stenodactylus, which apparently hatch really big. Which is gonna be quite cool. And now I'm like, okay, I figured it. I've done it. And now I can go on to the next tinkering project, because I know how to do them now, so I can just keep them. So it's my Gillamai. I figured them out. I know how to do it, so now I just keep them. Same as my Akis, same as Mango. I figured it out. Now I just keep them. And that, for me, is my philosophies in my keeping. Whereas I don't know if you know what yours are yet, which is one, a good and exciting thing, but two, also a scary thing, because it probably means you're going to be, over the next 5 to 10 years, interchanging who you are as a keeper.
I've come to the realization that first things first, before I start looking at who I move on or what I buy, everyone needs to be kept to the best of my ability straight away.
I'm going to grab a drink, but I can't hear you, so carry on.
No, that's all right. I think that's the majority. That's what comes to mind straight away for me is, first things first, keep everyone as close to the best as I can before I start looking at new species, before I start looking at breeding, before I start looking at... I mean, the Tokays is a little bit different because obviously they go in the same enclosure. But, for example, I wouldn't go out now and buy a group of garter snakes. It just wouldn't be worth it right now. So I think that's the positive I will give myself, is I'm not going to be impulsive and buy a new species just because I want to tinker or breed or have something new for social media clout. Do you know what I mean? So that's also a positive I'll give myself. But it's interesting. It is interesting. Like, there's so much in this hobby that can be done. There's so much that has been done and so much that will be done. So I'm excited. I am excited, and I've really enjoyed talking about this as well.
The stenos are chirping. Can you hear them?
Is that what that's been? Because to me it sounded like crickets.
Meso's Steno. They sound like
That's
birds.
sick.
Meso's Steno, yeah.
Oh mate, they are so cool. They are seriously so cool. Are they not obviously, like I say, I know nothing about them. Are they not a like
Yeah, that's
naturally? That's so cool, man.
Yeah, it sounds like a cricket, but that's the same.
Yeah. Would they not what's it like, incubate in the enclosure? Is it not that sort of thing? Would
They can
be?
do, yeah, they can
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
I was speaking to Fardy, who breeds them. He's like a big Canadian guy.
Yeah.
He said he artificially incubates, but I know people that have hatched them in the Viv.
Okay. Are you
Yeah,
going to artificially?
that one's a cricket.
Yeah.
Because it's got the at the end.
Yeah.
Whereas there's the beep, beep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got both going on right now.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, what?
Are you going to artificially incubate?
Yeah, I think so. I might leave one or two in there just to see. Because apparently they don't eat their babies. They just, accept them as part of the group, and that's that.
That's pretty cool.
So, but I've got 5 gravid females, and they lay 1 to 2 eggs, so I could get 5 to 10 eggs in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And apparently they take about 60 to 80 days to hatch. So in 3 months, I should be producing some F2 because they're all captive bred.
Yeah.
F2 stenos, which is quite cool because they all come in wild caught. So it's cool which would be cool because, again, I enjoy breeding. I'm a breeder. We spoke about it before. Sort of before I did the habitat stuff, I was contemplating becoming a breeder. I am a breeder, but you know what I mean, like being a real life breeder and having it as my bread and butter. And then sort of just working 1 or 2 days a week, a job, and then doing the rest breeding.
Yeah.
The detriment that I have is I wouldn't keep in breeding enclosures. I would keep in massive enclosures, and obviously retail is a paramount when you're a breeder. So I had that fight in my head, sort of like you're having the Cohab fight. And I had my answer for me by sort of getting a new job that kind of fills the needs of being the reptile hobby, gives me validation, and then still allows me to breed as a, I guess, just a hobbyist breeder, which is cool. But there is nothing like sort of seeing, I've produced over 1,000 Ackies at this point. It's cool to just come in and be like, oh, look at your little nose sticking on the air.
Mate, I can't wait to have a little baby Ackie. I cannot wait. I'm a little way off yet, but
mate, I've got one. Genuinely, not. I'll have another one. Don't get me wrong, but there's one in this clutch. It's stunning.
Is it? Yeah.
Like honestly, like it's. And it came out, normally they take 2 or 3 weeks to proper colour up and you get a gauge. Came out the egg different.
Oh,
like,
mate.
It's a nice. Don't get me wrong, the next clutch is a clutch of 18.
Yeah.
And
so
Fee held it. She was like, oh my God.
Tiny. Oh, God.
Yeah. But the next clutch, I'll get you the pick. I'll pick you the best one out of the whole class.
Yeah, well, I need to get on with this reptile room. There's a couple of bits I need to do initially, but I've got some of the materials, I've got some of the ideas, I've got the money to start really cracking it out, and I need to get on with it. But hopefully it's coming.
There's always an Ackie here for you, mate. Like,
I appreciate that.
My pair produces bloody all the time, so whenever you're ready, give us a shout. I'll always have Ackies at some point.
Yeah, no, definitely. I need to go to bed.
That's fine. I didn't want to talk to you anyway, so
that's fine. I've really enjoyed this. I genuinely, and I knew I would because it's something I wanted to talk about. Look at Dan piping up. Reptile room, yeah boy. 2.0.
It turns up late and all this riffraff in the chat, Dan.
Well, to be fair, BH has turned up just as we're saying goodnight. Hello, BH.
BH.
Thanks for joining.
Are you in the country yet, BH? I know we keep missing each other. I'm going to the invert show on. We're about to leave, Michael, so don't worry. I'm going to the invert show on Sunday. If you're in the country, I don't think you are though. I think you did the Bristol one.
But yeah, I've really enjoyed it, mate, and thank you for coming on because. Obviously it's good insight, and we both like obviously looking at both sides of any sort of argument, which is good, and I've really enjoyed it, so thank you.
I'm
I
glad one
hope
of
you've
us did.
enjoyed it as well. God's sake.
No, it's been good.
Oh,
fun,
hang on,
though,
there you
yeah.
go. There you go. See you Sunday, mate.
BH, obviously I have no idea what you look like, so just look for the hair and come and say hello.
Look for the Crocs.
Yeah, I will I'll be wearing camo Crocs. Yeah.
So what's the conclusion on cohabiting, Riddler? Well, it's taken us nearly 2 3/4 hours to come to the conclusion. It might work and it might not.
Big fish eat small fish, Michael.
Yeah.
There's one thing we can all be sure of: support responsible reptile keeping.
That's one of the conclusions we've come to. Yeah, if you're not signed up already, go and sign up, please. Sorry we demolished the chat. Don't worry about it, Dave. That's cool. I've sort of been enjoying it from the side, and also, you know, it helps the engagement. You know,
I've just got it up. I didn't realise I could get it up on my phone. But like you and me are about this sort of big on my screen. And then I've got the chat.
Yeah. But yeah, so thank you for joining. I do appreciate it. Oh, look, Serenity. I love it when Paul slaps his titty.
Give me a super chat and I'll do it for you in the DM.
It was all just an illusion so Paul and Ridder can have their moment again. Yeah.
I think secretly we miss each other because I don't speak to you any day. I don't speak to you every day anymore because you're terrible at replying. So it's like, okay, it's not too bad. And then we start to talk a lot and I'm like, oh, I can't stand
him. See you Sunday, just finished packing inverts for it. Nice.
I've never been to a bug show. I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually
I went to the one in Taunton, as you know, and it was really, really good. So I'm looking forward to going to another one at some point. Obviously, I can't make this Sunday because it's too far away. Excuse me. But yes, no. I appreciate you for joining. Thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate you. If you could all please like the stream when you're all done. Maybe a little comment if you're feeling generous.
Leave your opinion on Cohab in the comments below.
Yeah, leave us your opinions and whether you've done it or if you will do it anyway. But oh look, there you go.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Habitat Reptiles.
All right. Everyone come to the Scottish Invert Show. It depends. If you're going to pay for my room and board, then maybe August, so plenty of nights to plan. Gary
my birthday's around August.
Love you too. Have a good one. Love you, Gary. Thanks for joining.
Gary.
Only if I can stay at Dave's house. Oh, there you go. Hang on. Looks like you've got to send the titty picture.
Oh, is he super chatted? Is that money?
Yeah. Thanks, Serenity. But yeah, appreciate you all. Thank you all for joining, and stick around. Let us know in the comments. Appreciate you all.
Peace out.
And a peace out.